tune you down a little bit. Okay, say something. Yeah, I think we're about right. Yeah, I think we're about the same now.
Okay.
If
cool.
that's not the case for others, let us know. Okay, so what's going to happen today, and the reason I'm recording this is so that I don't have to teach this 50 times. Actually, I should rephrase. I'm also very much learning this game. I've played it twice against myself, which is, you're just basically running the different hands, pretending you don't know what the other player is doing, which is still pretty good in this game because it has some pretty interesting kinds of randomness. Some of my favorite kinds of randomness, push your luck, which I love.
Right.
And and I've never taught this game, right? And it's complicated, and I've watched the designer teach it, and I've watched the designer do like a rolling teach, which is basically to say let everyone do boneheaded stuff, and then he's like, maybe figure, and I think that's the best way to teach it, because I think just going through the rules of a game of this level of complexity is bonkers, right? It's just way too much. Yep. So what I've done here,
boneheaded stuff. I am here to do boneheaded stuff.
I do boneheaded. You're gonna do if you've ever played a Splatterspielen game like that Dutch company, where you always feel like you're the least intelligent person in the world when you play those games. I don't know if you ever played one of those Aussie. Like it's like
I have not.
Roads and Boats I've played, and I've played Food Chain Magnate. Those are both amazing games. But man, after you've played those games, you have a lot to talk about, and you're like, I'm pretty sure that I got like 10% of the way to getting to like grokking the game even remotely, right?
Yeah.
And so this is not that extreme. Like I think the Splatter games are insane that way, which is why we all should play Horseless Carriage at some point and figure out just how bad we are at those games. But this goes in that direction, right? You definitely are like, oops, I just no, my lord is going to disband because I forgot to pick up food on the way, and that kind of stuff is going to potentially happen. So here's what we're going to do. So I've set, look what I did. I've set this up in such a way that I have full screen browser, and I can tab through 4 screens that include the rules, which I can zoom into, of course, when we have to, all the Art of War cards in case we need to look at them, and most importantly, the player sheet, the player aid. The player aid in this game is excellent. Looks complicated. I've literally never read the words on this left sheet ever. I only looked at everything that's like in large print, right? This here on the left looks complicated, but once you get to the parts that you need, you don't look at every row, right? Same thing with the battles and all that stuff. But the first thing I'm going to do before I do anything else, because I don't have a good summary of this game, is I'm going to look at the introduction, right? And I'm just going to read it out loud so that everyone knows what this is.
Yep.
Okay, so it says Nevsky is a board war game about the storied clash between Latin Teutonic and Orthodox Russian powers on the 13th century Baltic frontier. It's the first volume in GMT Games' Levian campaign series, designed by Volko Runke, who also designed the Coin series, and Labyrinth, the War on Terror. Is the first portraying medieval military operations. Players will raise and equip their armies and then send them out to ravage or conquer enemy territory and to defeat enemy forces in battle. Feudal obligations and alliances will provide a panoply of lords and vassals to serve on campaign, but only for limited periods. Players must keep an eye on the calendar and reward lords to keep them in the field. An advanced rule adds detail regarding vassals' forces' length of service. We're not playing with that. I don't think it's implemented, thank God. Players may use optional screens that hide the strength of their forces. Not playing with that. Though Nevsky has no solitaire system, standard game is solitaire friendly. Yes. Fold-out aid.
Probably the troops goes a long way to making it solitaire friendly, at least.
Exactly. So. And then I'm just going to lead the general course of play because I think that's also pretty helpful up front. 2 players take the roles of Russians and Teutons, respectively. The Russians represent the wealthy city-state of Novgorod and its allies. The Teutonic represent compromised German and other landholders. Let's be honest, mostly German. Including the Teutonic... Danes as well, apologies. Including the Teutonic Order expanding a Baltic dominion. In turns covering 40 days, a traditional period of feudal obligation, Teutonic and Russian players will levy lords and vassal forces, gather transport, and recruit capabilities. Sounds super exciting. Each lord's forces and assets are laid out on a mat. We'll get to that in a second. The players then plan and command a campaign for that 40 days with the lords who have mustered. A cylinder on the map represents each lord, while markers on a calendar show how much time remains in their service, which can be influenced by hunger, pay, and success or failure in their campaigns. And boy, oh boy, can that go wrong.
Right.
So that's the basic idea. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a game, and we're going to jump straight into it, right? Like I'm going to create new game. We're going to do the quick start scenario. So what the quick start scenario does is the full game of this, I kid you not, is 16 rounds of levy and campaign. 16, covering 2 years of the actual event, right? So what the quick start scenario does is there's a Pleskau scenario, just this one, and that's 2 turns. So it basically covers 80 days, right? Where you do one levy campaign and then another levy and another campaign, and then you're done. The quick start is even better because the quick start assumes you never played the game before. So you're like, what am I even levying here? Like, who am I hiring and for what? So it cuts away the first levy and seeds you with after the levy phase, little group of lords with their vassals and their different units. And it furthermore seeds you with an order in which your 6 commands will go. Because another thing you do as part of the levy phase is you pick, so you have 6 command cards in the spring, which is the first season. And that just determines turn order, right? So when it's your turn, you flip the top card and that's the lord you're going to command this turn, right? But you have to program that in. So it's like a programming game, which of course in the context of this game models that communication in those days was iffy at best, right?
Yes.
That's basically what that does. And so that's where we're going to jump in. And I can we're not going to play with hidden mats. We're not going to. Do you have any preference as to whether you'd like to play Russia or Germany, basically?
I'm game either way. But
in which case,
throw me wherever.
No, so what we're going to do is random. I'm going to make it
Sure.
a private game. And we're going to call it, as per always, eggplant.show. And we're going to create that game. And I'm going to join random 1. And then I do have to now unfull screen this because I do have to copy and paste this. I'm just going to paste it into into our chat on Discord.
Yep, I got it.
So you should
All
get
right,
that.
so...
There you are.
All right, I'm in. Yep.
You're in. And so now I'm going to go back to full screen because no one needs to see that. I'm going to start the game. And then click on my name. And here it is.
Off we go.
Okay. So I'm going to explain what we're seeing now because this will all make a lot more sense. So the first thing I have to realize is that I am the Germans fittingly and you are playing as Russia.
Yes.
So now the only hidden information we have in this game at this point is this order of cards here, the plan, right? So I'm going to not show you that, but it doesn't matter, right? Same thing for you. You have a plan there, and all I'm going to say now is the first thing you do is click End Plan in the upper right. Right?
Okay.
And so just do that because it's basically going to just take the seeded plan that it gives you, and so that we don't have to worry about that until the next turn.
Okay. Yeah, when I fired up the quick start scenario before to try and tease it out, I was expecting... I didn't realize that the quick start scenario automatically seeded in the lords. So I was expecting to actually... I was sort of taken aback by, like, it would bring you to the plan and say, all done. And I was like, wait, I didn't do anything. So I'll in plan now.
So to be clear, you could do it. You could go down to the plan and undo the whole plan. We could do that, but I think it's too much. I actually think it's too much to ask. Right, I think it's a little bit too much in the beginning.
Yeah.
So
right. I'll trust what they've got. We're good.
So this is my plan. Down here are the Russian lords, right? So right now, let's start from. You know what? Let's start from the top. This makes things easier. Okay, so the first thing you see at the top is the calendar. So this is the thing that's like, I would say the core difference to anything I've ever seen. And it's not like I'm a storied, historical / wargamer, but I've played a few. Right. And so this calendar, I was like, what is even going on here? So what this calendar shows you is the full 16 turns, right? So each of these little boxes here, right now you just see here where it says campaign and battle on the Neva. That's the turn we are currently in. And
Right.
and that's we're in the summer of 1240. Um, Now, the next turn is going to be turn number 2. So you're going to see the turn number in the upper left corner, right? So right now we're in turn 1. And the full game goes 16 turns. It goes all the way down here to the spring or Rasputitsa of 1242. Now, the quick start scenario only covers turns 1 and 2. We are only playing 2 turns, right? The next thing you'll see here is all these markers, right? These markers, 3 white ones and 4 black ones, are the service markers of my 4 lords and Ozzy's 3 lords respectively. So that just says if the turn order marker, which currently is in turn 1, ever reaches these service markers, and we don't do anything about that, there are things you can do, then that lord disbands. It's just like, nope, okay, we're cool. I'm hungry and we need money, so we need to go back and plow fields, so we're out. That's basically what that means. So right now, this marker here represents my lord Yaroslav, so you can always see that here. And Yaroslav is saying, okay, I'm in it for 1 season or for 1 40-day period, and after that I'm out, unless you do something about it. Now you might ask yourself, well, who cares? We're only playing the first 2 rounds. Sure, we can do something about Yaroslav. What about all these others? They're going to be there for the full intro campaign. Yes and no. There are multiple ways in which those markers can move left, right? And I'm not going to explain them right now, but that's basically what that is. And when that happens, so say for whatever reason now, this Yaroslav token moved 1 to the left, and I had no way to prevent that. What would happen is Yaroslav would disband, and then the Yaroslav disk, which currently, if you look down here on the map, is like, where's Yaroslav? Wow, now I'm totally blind. That's Gavrilo. That's Domash. Oh no, okay.
He's over by Skov.
He's over by he's obviously I've been playing Russia against Brian. So here he is right here, right? This is Yaroslav. That disk that represents the Lord would go up here 2 spaces from where that token was. So it would go in here, and then when the game reaches that turn, Yaroslav could be mustered again. Again, none of this will happen, but what will happen in this intro scenario is that these can disband. And if they disband, the other player gets a victory point. Only in this scenario. That's very unique to this scenario, so that there's a reason to not just rush into battle and then lose all your troops and lose a victory point, right? So,
right.
Which brings me to victory points. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so the service time for each of the lords, that is, if I remember right, it's determined at the cards at the bottom. If you look at the Teutonic lords or the Russian lords, there's a service number that's in the upper right, and that indicates how long they stay. So a lot of them are have like a service timer 3 or 4. Right. Yaroslav is I guess somewhat unique in this case because he's only got the 2.
He's only got the 2, right? Which is why he ends on the 2. And I'm not even going to go into the fealty thing up here in the upper right. There's like a little die. When you try to muster the lords, if they are musterable, which again, this is not how this game is seeded, then you have to still roll a die because they may not come. It's right. Brutal, right?
You have to lobby them.
You have to lobby them, right? And there's a randomness to it. So all this means is a lot of words from you saying I'm going to have to worry about Yaroslav because at the beginning of next turn Yaroslav is out. Right? If I don't do anything. Victory points. So the way you get victory points in this scenario, 1, have other players' lords disband. That's a way to get victory points. 2, you can conquer strongholds by sieging and storming them, or forcing them to give up. And we'll get to that when we get to that point. And the third way that's prominent is to ravage the lands. There's a ravaging action that allows you to rob the lands of food and money sometimes, and loot. And that's another way to get like a half a victory point. So right now, what this is showing is the Teutonic lords have 0 victory points, right? This is down here. It's basically, this is my victory point marker. It's to the left of the board. And Russia starts with 1 victory point. right? So that's your victory point is on the 1 spot. So if you got a second victory point, this victory point marker here would move to here, right? It's a weird way to mark victory points, but that's how it does it, right? By saying it has nothing to do with the months. It's literally just the number. And where do you get that victory point from?
Using that space.
Yeah.
Which is when you have limited real estate in a board game, I get it.
Pretty much. Okay. Right. So you start with a victory point, right? You have the wealth of Novgorod starts with 1 victory point, which you can spend on things.
Okay.
But we're not going to get to that. Trust me. But that's your 1 victory point. So that's why you start with 1 and I start with 0. And I kind of have a little bit of a stronger army because historically what happened is you can always see this up here on the map, right? Battle on the Neva. There was a battle up here. And then in the second turn is the Battle of Izborsk and the fall of Pskov. And Izborsk is here and Pskov is right here. So this is where this whole 2-year campaign started. And the game sort of sets you up for reenacting that, right? That's basically where we are. Minus the fact that you have Vladislav up here in guarding the Neva, and I have Knut and Abel, these Danish lords, considering using seafaring to like invade Luga or Neva or even Koporye. I think that's Koporye, okay, right?
Hey Charles in chat.
Oh, hey Charles. Yeah, I should probably look at the chat occasionally. I was just like assuming that we're recording this sort of just for posterity.
For posterity, but as questions come, if there are any questions,
for sure, I'll definitely react to them. Okay,
I'll keep an eye.
So with all that out of the way, we've passed the first levy phase and we're going into campaign. Now, in the campaign phase, what happened now is my first command card got revealed, and it's Yaroslav. Right, so now I have to do something with Yaroslav. Yaroslav has 2 command, right? So that's this number 2 here, which means that on his turn he has 2 actions. But Yaroslav also has an ability down here, right? That says guides and scouts, converts. This lord's or his group's march with light horse, and that is what this little brown triangle is, reaches first locale each card for 0 actions. So it can do 1 move action for free, basically. Right? If it has light horses. Right? So if you look at this chart over here with the units, you'll see that this brown triangle is a light horse. Right? Then there's an Asiatic horse, armored steel sergeants, and armored knights. Right? So the triangles are like mounted, and the little squares or whatever you want, these cuboids, those are not. The men-at-arms are armored, the militia and the serfs are not. Right? So it's not that many different types of units, and they basically differ in how amazing they are in the push your luck game.
Right. And so the guides and scouts, that's part of the preceded, yes. Because I think at the beginning of the turn you draw those Art of War cards.
So there's 2 different things. Yeah.
Right.
There's 2 different things. You first draw the Art of War cards, because each of these cards, I'm going to hit Shift now on my keyboard, also has a top side, and the top side is the event, and the bottom side is the ability.
Right. Capabilities.
The capabilities, and when you buy the capabilities, that's part of levying. And you can use a levy point to arm a capability, and in which case, when you do that, you get to look at all cards. So these are all cards. They're called the Arts of War card for both the Teutonic Order and the Russians. And you can basically look at all of them and just pick one, right? So while these events are random, the equipping of the abilities is not. But if you're holding a card for a random event, some of them are hold cards, then you can't use them for their ability. And the abilities are pretty strong, right? Having an extra move action is strong. Herman, I'll say straight up, is like my badass, right? It's 2 knights, another mounted armored, 2 other armored men-at-arms, right? It has a lot of stuff.
Right.
And he has ballistari, so he has crossbowmen, which means they have archery. Archery comes before mounted attack, comes before melee attack. So there's 3 rounds where you first do archers of the defense and of the attacker, mounted of the defense of the attacker, and then melee of the defense and of the attacker. So defenders go first. They have a huge advantage in that way. But this means also that they have -2 to target's armor, right? So normally when they would try to defend against a hit, they would have 4 if they're a knight, but they'd only have a 2 if they're not. And then when they roll the die, they have to roll a 2 or less instead of a 4 or less, which is pretty big, right? It's a pretty big swing. And the trebuchet just says, if you are storming, I'm not going to explain what Sally means yet. If you're storming a wall, you can reduce the wall height by 1. What does that mean? Any hit that you make on an attack against a stronghold has to go through the wall. And you'll see that all of these Russian strongholds have a wall of 1 to 3, right? So if I have, with my trebuchets, they have 1 to 2, right? So it reduces their wall strength. And you'll see that the Teuton built are 1 to 4, which is just the historical way of saying that the Germans build stronger stuff. Shocking. Having lived there, it's not a huge shocker at all.
Right.
Because they don't use wood, they use stone, right? Whereas most other people use wood. Anyway, where was I? So that's basically what these abilities are. And again, Hermann is my super badass. Then I have these Knudenovel dudes who are up here. Rudolf, kind of a little person up here, over here in Wenden. And then Yaroslav, who is actually from Pskov, but has been exiled. So, for reasons of, I think, something with has to do with being some part of a marriage. These very typical like medieval marriage arrangements to get to the crown and stuff like that, right? It's complicated as hell. One of the reasons why I always drop off of Crusader Kings after like 3 days of trying, because I'm like, what? Why did I just lose that? Oh, someone married into my house and now it's theirs, right? And I never understand that. Like, I don't know if you've ever played Crusader Kings, but it's fascinating, but it's the most complicated thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's a difficult lift. A lot of the Paradox games are, and I think Crusader Kings like 3 did a decent job of providing a better on ramp. But I think even that's still compared to prior Paradox games. And I think if people are coming to a strategy game, and they're thinking like, oh, like Civilization, I think it's an order of magnitude more complicated than that. And I think that's sort of where, like, for wargaming, like this, Nevsky isn't necessarily a beer and pretzels style.
No, oh god, no.
no. There's a little more going on here in the same way, which is why we're trying to ramp up to it. And it's like this is more on at like an operational scale. Yep. Like you have a lot more going on with managing the different lords, keeping them happy, keeping them supplied,
keep them
just like
fed.
classic,
keeping them fed.
Yes, classic operational strategic concerns. So
it's there's you'll notice quickly. This looks. I mean, the only reason right now it looks complicated is because the map's pretty detailed. But you'll notice in a second when we actually start playing it that there's a lot going on. Some turns are going to go super fast and others are going to take forever because they're battles. Battles take a moment.
Right. There's just a lot of iconography.
There's a lot of iconography, right?
Yeah.
So let's just jump into this and I'll start explaining what the different actions are, right? Because I could also just go here and say, like, look, I can march, I can siege, I can storm, I can sally, I can supply, I can forage, ravage, sail, tax, pass, right? Whatever, right? There's a lot. Those are the possible actions over here. And there's prerequisites and things that happen as a result and yada, yada, yada. Not that interesting right now, right? You'll see that 2 full pages are dedicated just to attacking, right? Because that's a big part of the game. And then the rest down here is like literally every individual militia has its own name. So, but we're not gonna go that deep into the weeds. What I'm gonna do now is explain what am I gonna do with this dude, right? Hermann's going to go 3 times. Rudolf's going to go 2 times. Yaroslav's only going to go once, right? Now, Yaroslav, aside of having a knight and a light horse and a man-at-arms, right, which is not bad. It's not terrible. It's not strong, right? Also has down here in a box called Assets and Vassals, has a cart and a provender. And the word, like, I've watched so many tutorial videos about this that I can't, like, I sometimes wake up in the middle of the night and I hear the word provender. Because it's said, it's like that is one of the core mechanics of this game. Right. If on any person's turn, your lord has moved or fought. And it doesn't matter whether you retreated on someone else's turn. That counts as a move fight, right? If you were just an innocent bystander on the field of war as a reserve, you will get a move fought token during the turn, which means at the end of that turn, when all actions have been used, you have to feed your people. And up to 6 units, so you'll notice Herman has exactly 6 units, right? 2 knights, one of these armed knights, which I always forget the name of, sergeants, 2 men-at-arms, and a militia. So that's exactly 6. Up to 6 costs 1 provender. Anything above that, 2 provender, with no change, right? So having more than 6 is expensive, right? So usually you'll try to keep your units on 1 mat to 6 or less, because 7's a nightmare, right? Like you definitely don't want 7. That's the biggest thing that I have to say, because you can use that strategically. Like if someone ends their turn and has no provender, and all you do is move into their spot and then they retreat because they don't want to fight, or even if they want to fight, they're going to have to feed at the end of that turn. And if they don't win the fight, they're going to have to retreat and lose the fight and not be able to feed, which is in this scenario almost guaranteed a disband, right? Because when you can't feed, guess what happens? Your service marker moves 1 to the left.
Ah, right. Okay.
So
that's one of the ways that those adjust over that you were talking about.
Exactly. Yep. That's one of the ways in which it adjusts to the left. The only way, except for potentially events on cards, that you can move it to the right is by paying them, right? So that's how you keep the service marker happy. You have to give them coin. Yaroslav has no coin and will disband next turn if I don't come up with a good way to give Yaroslav coin. So usually what I try to do with Yaroslav is quickly get to Izborsk to start the siege on Izborsk. Because if that siege succeeds, then there will be spoils that we can use to pay, right? Izborsk is what you can look up here, it's a fort, right? It has a strength 1. It has 1 outline around it, right? I can actually, why don't I zoom in here a little bit? So he has 1 red line around it. There are ones with 2 red lines around it, like Pskov or Rusa, and then Novgorod has 3, right? And if you look at the rules for this, let me zoom out again. This looks kind of garbagey if I don't see both. You will see that if you conquer it, a fort, you will get 1 coin. If you conquer a city, which is like Pskov, you get 2 coins. If you conquer Novgorod, you get 3 coins. Right? And a coin is basically 1 coin is how you move 1 lord's marker 1 to the right. So chunky integers. We love them, right? In game design, we always love chunky integers.
Yes.
Okay, so what does that mean for me? Well, a couple of things. A, at the end of my move, I'm going to have to eat that provender, right? If I can't, I instant disband. But there are other things you can do, right? And this is where I am going to go to some of these actions. Supply means if with your carts and boats you can trace a path back to your home, right?
The supply line.
Supply line. So right now, Yaroslav's home is here, and he has what? A cart. So I could still supply in Krumpa. I could not supply from Izborsk. But it doesn't matter because it's the summer, and in the summer you can forage, right? You cannot forage if the place has already been ravaged, right? And it has to be at a friendly stronghold, or a friendly field, right?
So Izborsk wouldn't count in that case because you'd be encroaching into Russian territory, and even though I don't have a unit there, it's still not natively friendly. Is that right?
It says sorry, I misread that. At friendly stronghold or anywhere in summer. So you can forage at a friendly stronghold even in the winter, but not in the summer. You can forage everywhere, right? Okay. So forage is a lot easier, with the difference being, and this is already a little bit too far, right? You'll see that Herman has 2 seats, right? He has a seat here and a seat here. In here again, why am I not zooming in? In Dorpat and Odenpa, he has 2 seats. So if he has enough in terms of assets to trace 2 paths, he would get 2 Provender for a single supply action, right? Same thing. Actually, you know what? Now that I see it, Yaroslav has some allies left over in Pskov.
Yes.
Right. So he could, if he had 3 carts. This is the thing that changed between versions 1 and 2, by the way. In version 2, you actually need to have enough assets, in this case carts, for all paths. And in the first version, you just need to have them for 1 path. And it would count for the second path. Right. So 2 carts in Izborsk would have been enough to supply from Pskov and from Odenpa for Yaroslav. But that's no longer the case, so we don't really have to worry about it. But what does that mean? That means for me that and again, you gotta love Rally the Troops, right? It's showing me exactly where I can move to for 1 action, right? I can move to any of these places. Now, Here's an important thing. The only reason you need the cart is for the Provender. If I don't care about taking the Provender with me, I can take any of these paths, right? Because my lords are just walking. But they can't carry the Provender without a cart. And they can't use the cart to carry the Provender along a waterway. So you'll see here, again, zooming in. Whoops, that's a little bit too far. From Felon to Odenpa is a waterway. And that's just a single waterway, even though there's a body of water. This is not a spot, right? So you trace along the boundary here to Odenpa. But if I tried to go there, which I can click on right now, it would say March hindered, 1 Provender and 0 transport, discard Provender. So I could do it, but I would have to get rid of the Provender because I would need a boat to get it to there, right? And
the Provender is tied to that cart.
It's tied to the Lord and to whatever asset. If I had a boat, it would be fine. Okay. If I had
there has to be some transport. The Lord can't carry the Provender by hand. So if
I had a boat here, I could take that and take the Provender with me. I could also do it and just drop the Provender, right? Which sounds like a bad idea, and it is. Also, Also, that's not the direction I'm going in, but I just wanted to make the point, right?
Right. So just to illustrate the different move options.
Just to illustrate. Now, another thing is the second a lord reaches a stronghold, it immediately starts a siege, and you lose all remaining actions.
Wow.
So they immediately they camp. They build the first siege engine. You basically get the first siege engine for free. All future siege engines cost you the siege action, and the siege action costs you your entire command. So you can't you can't take an action and then use the rest of the command to do the siege action. Why would you do 2 siege actions? Well, the more siege engines you have, the better defended you are against the people attacking you from the inside, and the longer you can run that campaign. Because if you only have 1 siege engine, you can only do 1 round. And if you don't take it over, you lose the siege. Sorry, the storm is what it's called. So having more siege engines is actually very strong.
But and the storm is trying to breach the walls of the castle.
You are trying to breach the walls of the castle, right? And to be clear, it looks right now like Izborsk is undefended. This is not true. Izborsk has a garrison of 1 men-at-arms with crossbows, which again sounds like it's not that good, but crossbows kind of suck, right? And normally knights have a strength of 2, so most things have a strength of either a half or 1, and knights are times 2 in battle on the open field. But when they storm, they're like everyone else. They get off the horse and they got swords, right? So that's why storming a castle is no joke, right? I'm playing a game with Brian, New Obj on our Discord, and he just tried to storm Pskov with Herman, right? And it failed, right? Because Pskov has 3 men-at-arms with crossbows, right? And he only had 1 siege engine. So the siege engine in that context serves for him as a wall, but it's only a wall with a roll of 1, right? So any roll that's higher than 1 gets through the siege engine.
Okay. So to clarify, so for the Izborsk and Pskov, so I see the 1 on Izborsk and I see the 3 on Pskov. How can you see that they have that those are crossbows?
Oh, you have to actually go to the player aid and look at the strongholds, and then you see here. Okay. I don't know if you're looking at the stream right now, but you see here Fort has 1 man at arms with crossbows. City has 3 men at arms with crossbows.
Okay, yeah. I'm looking at the player right now. Okay,
Oh,
so
and this siege capacity, what that means is in order, and I think I'm going to get this rule wrong right now, but I think in order to build a siege engine, you need actually to have as many lords there as the siege capacity. I think that's how that works. Otherwise, you can't, because it's against trying to simulate that building these siege engines for larger things requires more people. I think that's what that is, but I may be getting this wrong right now because I haven't really sieged a lot, and I haven't watched a lot of people siege people like for longer periods of time.
Okay, so yeah, so Izborsk is the fort, and that's where and that has the crossbow, and then and that shows in the men at arms, the single men at arm on garrison.
So
then Shkov, it's sort of weird to show. It's the city icon, right? But there's different units that are on top that sort of obscure that.
Right. So
but if you compare that with the chart, that has 3 men at arms. Okay, I see.
So
now
not right now, right? Because Gavrilo is actually there, right? So this is a Lord Gavrilo. Right. That's this lord. So the garrison's not there, right? Because Gavrilo's there. The garrison is there if you have no lords there. Yeah.
If nobody's there, the lord. So garrison is only there. I say this,
and I hope I'm not wrong about. Like again, we'll find out when we get to that point. But I'm pretty sure that you don't have a lord and the garrison. But I'm honestly not sure right now. I'd have to like let's look the rules for like right.
I can imagine a scenario where because these lords are just sort of coming in and like hanging out in the castle, like and the people there are probably inclined to say let the lords do the fighting for them, and then if they're gone, they're like okay, well we have to garrison our own people. Right. So if I have to like imagine a scenario to rationalize the gameplay, like I agree with you. I think it would be because otherwise if it was the lord plus the garrison, it would be.
They're there. They're there.
They are there.
Yep, they're there.
Okay.
Like if you look, I don't know if you see what I pulled up just now.
I'm watching now.
It's like Storm. Any lord outside of a siege stronghold may command an action to launch an attack. Refer to the battles, note some events. Array, unlike in battle, each side holds one lord, beginning from attacker. And then here you see garrison with besieged defender, right? So there is a besieged defender and a garrison, right? The besieged side receives the garrison units shown for that type of stronghold, right? Even if there's a lord in there. Right. Okay.
So it looks like if we're going left to right, the garrison would apply first, or the garrison would be.
Good question. That's a good question. We would garrison forces during storm have both melee and archery. They just count towards the melee and archery.
Okay, they count additionally.
They count additionally, right? So they induce more hits, and they can probably be used to suck up hits, right?
Right.
Oh, here. The defender must assign all hits suffered to garrison units until they are routed, after which the defending lord's unit absorbs hits. So you have to have them. Yeah, they're like
they're the front line.
They're on the front line.
They're cannon fodder. Yep. Okay.
But that's nuts. And I can just tell you that Herman wasn't able to storm Pskov with one siege engine with no lords in it. So.
Right.
But again, I did have a garrison in there that was the men at arms, again I'm jumping ahead here, but the men at arms have an armor of 3, and so what happened was I had 3 men at arms, and I think Brian did 5 hits, and what you do is for each hit you pick one of them and you roll a die, and if the die roll is under 3 or less, you absorb the hit. If it's 4 or 5 or 6, that unit routes, right? Okay. And I had one unit absorb all 5 hits, right? So I got really lucky. I did 5 coin flips in a row and they all landed on heads, right? So that it can happen, but it's pretty lucky, right? You can actually I'm not going to do the weirdo 1/0.5 to the power of 5, right? Or 0.5 to the power of 5. That's the likelihood that would happen,
right?
So anyway, that's a lot of blah blah for I'm going to go to Izborsk.
Right.
But the way I'm going to do it is I have 3 actions, right? So there's a problem here. And here's what's going to happen. So ideally, I'd be like, oh, cool. On my way there, I'm going to grab some more food, right? That sounds like a great idea, right?
It's along the way.
But there's a problem with that, which is if I do that, the next move, I can't move 2 Preventer with 1 card. So I'd have to discard it anyway, so it doesn't matter. Now,
Okay.
another thing I could do is Herman is a marshal. So down here, you see this little circle, right? And you'll also notice that on his disc, there's like a little brown gold style circle around the circumference, right? And so that means that Herman is a marshal, and marshals can pick up folks along the way. So I could say, oh, cool, in that case, I'm going to put Yaroslav over here, and then Herman's going to grab him on the way to Izborsk, right? Now, the problem with that is, if I do that, I give you the opportunity to move Gavrilo to Izborsk, right? And if you do that, and I attack it, then you can retreat into the stronghold. But if I'm already there when you get there, you can't start an attack and then retreat into the stronghold. You have to retreat back to where you came from if you lose the field battle. Right? Now, Gavrilo is strong, and Yaroslav is not. But you would be attacking, and defenders always have a little bit of an advantage, right? But again, Gavrilo has archery. Gavrilo would probably mow me down, right? But you have to figure out whether you want to do that, because then you would, of course, leave Pskov undefended, right, with only the garrison. And that's where the good tension in this game comes from, right? So it's like, what am I going to do? You can't cover all bases. It's always triage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Now, I've played this game. This is the 4th time I'm playing it. I don't even know who's going first on your turn. That's how little I've memorized the pre-programmed order. I don't know if your first card is Gavrilo. You know it. I don't know it. And if you had picked it yourself, of course I wouldn't know it. You know my order right now because I'm showing it to you on the stream the whole time.
Right, we're playing open-handed.
Right. You would not see my plan, right? You would not see my plan. So in light of that, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to forfeit my 3rd command and just try to lay siege on Izborsk, right? Because I'm worried that you might try to come over there, because, you know, I could use Herman to go to Uzman and from there to Pskov. That's 2. He doesn't have a boat, so he'd lose the Provender, which is bad, right? So because the second he gets to Pskov, he'd start a siege. He'd have no Provender, and his token would move 1 to the left.
Right. Siege wouldn't last long because troops are going to get hungry.
Which is not terrible, because it would only go from 4 to 3. But I don't want that, right? And I feel like I've tried keeping this dude on the way before. So I'm going to say, nope, not happening. I'm going to go here. And now you'll see again, because it's, you know, I'm going to undo in the upper right. You'll see because it's, oh yeah, I can also tax, which costs me my entire turn. And then I get a coin, right? I don't care, right? I'm not going to, I don't think that's worth it for this, right? So I'm just going to move here where I could then forage or supply. But if I do that, I could do it. Let's do it. Forage. Cool. Now he has 2 Provender. Now I'm going to go to Izborsk. March. Laden with 0 loot, 2 Provender, 1 transport. Discard Provender. It did nothing, right? And I can't eat it on the way. So I could discard it now, and then it'll be like, cool, March unladen. Or, oh, and here, okay, actually, you know what? I did mess something up here. So now he has 2 Provender. The thing is, I only have 1 action, right? If I had 2 actions left, I could march laden. But I don't, right? So I can't say, oh, cool, let's do this and use 2, because it's not even giving me the option. It's saying, nah, you got to discard a Provender, right? And basically, it's the same thing, right?
Now, was the forge action that you took at Karumpa, was that a free action that you had at Karumpa?
No, the first move. So I have 2 actions up here. See, Yaroslav has 2 actions. If I move here, I still have 2 actions.
And that's that's because of the capability of that first.
Yep, that's because of Yaroslav. It's because of Yaroslav's capability, right? So, but it's not helping me here in any way, shape, or form, right? So I'm not getting the Provender, and so I'm just going to go to Izborsk.
Okay.
Lay siege to it. So you saw so the second, I'm going to undo this again. The second I go to Izborsk, I'm going to click on it. Boop.
There's a little siege
token. And now it says I have no more actions. So at that point I can say end command up here in the right. And now it says feed. See this token here? Moved, fought. That's the thing that tells me I moved and or fought this turn. And that means at the end of the turn, I have to feed. Right, so I'm going to... All I need to do is click...
that's the token. That's the token on Yaroslav,
yeah,
right?
That's
so
the token on Yaroslav.
down on the card for Yaroslav.
On the card,
okay.
exactly. So I'm going to hit Provender. Whoop, fed him. Feed all done. And now I end feed. And now this is the phase that comes between every turn. Between every turn, I can decide whether I want to pay any of my lords. You can pay them with either coin or loot. Loot is a thing that's like food or money, because it's supposed to be livestock, so you can use it as a bargaining tool, but also to just straight up eat. And it's in that which case it counts as a single provender. But I don't have any more money, and my or wait, that's not true. Why is Yaroslav doesn't actually have any money. So I have to hope for the best and hope that Yaroslav somehow gets loot or money. Otherwise, Yaroslav's gone, right? So I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to hit end pay. And now it's your turn. And at the beginning of your turn, the first thing is always, do you want to pay your lords? Right. And you have one coin in the Novgorod Veche. And that coin represents the power, the economic power of Novgorod, which means you can use that to pay any lord. Normally, the lords have to be in the same spot of the lord who has the coin on them. So there's a logistics problem there, which is why I just now couldn't use Herman's coin to pay Yaroslav. They're not in the same location.
Right. Like looking at the cards right now, like Gavrilo has a coin on his card. And then Herman has a coin, but they can only apply to their location. Whereas the Novgorod, the Novgorod can apply anywhere.
Yep, exactly. The Novgorod can apply anywhere. Now, the good thing for you in the Novgorod coin is I can't take that from you unless I storm Novgorod. That's 100,000% not happening.
I was just gonna say, good luck. Bring a lunch.
Maybe it happened on turn 13 or something. I don't know. But so that coin is safe. One of the reasons I wanted to spend the coin, or Gavrilo might want to consider spending the coin, is because maybe Gavrilo's worried that next turn Gavrilo is going to go under. In which case, whoever wins gets all these assets as spoils, except for ships. And ships right now, the only person who has ships is Knut and Abel. And ships are used to sail from any port to another port, which are all these things with the little nautical symbol here with the anchor.
Right.
So
Gavrilo is kind of highly leveraged here, like 2 Provenders, a card, a boat, like there's a lot going on there. So
technically it's still the end of my turn because I still haven't seen who your first lord is, right? So you'll see that in the upper right corner it still says Yaroslav. So it's still technically my turn, but you can decide to pay right now. But I don't see why you would do that, honestly. I mean, unless you're really worried that you're going to go into battle with Gavrilo and you're worried that Gavrilo might lose the fight.
Right.
In which case...
And I mean, and Gavrilo right now is on the 4 spot of early winter, right? So like if we're worried about Gavrilo even going to the left, we still have a little bit of time.
Makes no sense. I don't think you want to pay that coin right now, and again, unless you're worried that you're going to lose it.
So let's do in pay then. Okay, so then it says command, my first is Gavrilo.
So your first is Gavrilo, right? So you have options now, right? This is the part where we go to, here are your options. Right. You have March. Siege is obviously not in the cards, or Storm. Sally is a thing that you do if you want to come out of you withdrew into the fort, and now you want to come out and go into battle. That's what the Sally action is, right? Supply and Forage, I think, are self-explanatory. Ravage is, guess what? You can ravage your own place. It can't be ravaged again. Sorry, I totally messed it up. You cannot ravage you can't ravage your own lands. You have to be on foreign territory to ravage, right? So you can't ravage Pskov, so that's not possible. You can't sail. You can tax, right?
Right. Yeah, the buttons at the upper right, I have tax, forage, supply, and pass. Now the supply,
right? Because March isn't shown there, because March is like you just click
on the location.
Yeah, you click on the location, right? So what would I do in your case? You have options, right? You just have to worry I mean, and you have to worry a little bit that if you go in on trying to get me out of Isborsk now, that I have the option the second Herman activates to just say, well, I'll take into account that Herman won't be able to feed, but that's a small price to pay for marching on Pskov and laying
Right.
siege to it without you in it, right?
Right.
And I might do that, but I'm not sure. I actually think I think I'd probably be spreading myself too thin, but it could be fun to try. Um, so you could tax. You can definitely supply or for like if you're worried that you're gonna go in there and you're gonna be besieged for multiple turns. Every time I pull you into an attack by storming, you have to feed, and you have
Right.
when you're inside the stronghold, you have no way of foraging,
Right.
right?
And that's classic siege, like starve them out, right?
Right.
Like we're basically going to blockade around the siege. Nobody's going in.
Now
Nobody's bringing food in. So
now the
how
thing
long can
is
you last?
you probably can just supply because it's your freaking home, right? And
Right.
you're inside of it. I don't know. Again, these are always going to be a couple of corner cases, right? Where I'm going to be like, how does supply work in that scenario, right? And then you go here and you click on supply, right? And it's like okay here, and it starts immediately. An unbesieged lord may use a command action to supply. Unbesieged. So the second you're besieged, it's over, right? So if you
Right.
go into siege, you kind of want to go into it with a lot of food. And right now, Gavrilo it has 2 Provender, right? And you have no upper limit on Provender if you're not moving, right? There's a thing
Right.
called wastage at the end of a round where if you have more than one of each, you have to discard one asset. Not one of each, just any single one. And that's just to simulate you got too much stuff flying around.
Okay.
Um,
So for Gavrilo, since he has 2 Preventer, would I be at risk of having to discard because I have 2 Preventer in addition to all the other resource? Or
yes, but you'd have to like you already 2 would already be enough, right? And
right.
and then you could literally discard a cart or a boat or any of your abilities. Also, you have 2 abilities, so that will trigger wastage. Even if you right now only had 1 preventer, 1 coin, 1 cart, and 1 boat, having 2 abilities triggers wastage.
Okay.
Right? So you'd have to discard something, either a card or one of the tokens. So
Okay.
what I'm trying to tell you is getting more Provender, if your plan is to basically stay there and hunker down. If I were you and my plan was to stay and hunker down, you have 2 commands, right? I'd probably just like forage, or supply, right?
Yeah, and I think I don't know. I want to keep Pskov as hardened as possible. I think I don't know that I want to overcommit just for the.
In
Just
which
for
case you
the,
should definitely. In which case I think hunkering down is what
right.
is the way to go, right?
So if we do so if I click supply,
Yeah. So I did,
okay, and it says supply source. Okay, so select supply source and route, 1 boat, 1 cart.
you're already on the place that you're getting supply from, so you should probably only have to click on that.
Just click on Pskov.
Yeah,
Okay, so supplied seat at Pskov. Okay. All right. Okay, so that gets the Preventer.
So now you're at 3. Now you're at 3 Provender, right? And you could do that again,
Right.
right? Especially if you're not. I mean, I don't know what better if there's a better thing to tell you. Like, I don't think that any of the others tax. I don't think that's worth it, right? We're not playing.
Probably not at this point.
We're not playing a. There are other scenarios that come with this that are like a full year or half a year.
Right.
This is just like a quarter of a year, right?
Right. It's small enough scale that we don't managing the
Right.
the economic impact of an additional coin here maybe not worth burning the
Probably
action.
not.
Like the action economy is more important on that. Now, is there any like supply versus forage in this context? Is it really
Nope.
is there really any difference?
Nope.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. It becomes much more important once you get to the winter, but I've never been in the winter, so I don't know what that's like. You'll also notice that if you look at the thing up here, right, in the summer you have 6 command cards. In the winter you only have 4.
4, yes.
Right? So
I'll go ahead and forage, and then I had 3 actions. So
it's because you have an ability, right? It's because you have yeah, this lord with knights has a command +1. So it's because you have the 1 knight. As long as you have at least 1 knight, you have 3 commands and not 2.
Okay.
So you could do it
Now,
again.
so yeah, could go ahead and do it again. Now, is there any way to so like just thinking of like bringing up like questions from other strategy games that other people might want to bring here? Is there any way to rustle up additional troops, like or is
Not
at this
now.
point
So
not
because
now?
you can do that. So in theory, you can do that during levying, but not if you're besieged, right?
Okay,
In
right.
the levy phase, if you're under siege, you can't levy more forces, right? Because they have no way of getting to you.
Okay.
You can move. You have 2 more lords, right? You have Vladislav and Domash. Vladislav is up here in Neva, and Domash is here in Novgorod. They look like they're very far away, and they kind of are, but I think Vladislav has 3 commands, right? So he can like get to Novgorod in 1 turn, and then basically get to Dubrovno in a 2nd turn, right?
Okay.
So he can get down here pretty fast if he needs to. But beware, and I mean, again, I'll tell you right now, I have no command cards right now for Knut and Abel. But Knut and Abel with ships can like just swoop into Luga or Neva, and those are not strongholds. You just take those, and they're
take those,
and they're
really,
a victory point,
unless they're
right?
definitive. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Okay, I'll go ahead and end command. I mean, I'm just hunkering down, and then okay. So now it comes up and it says you may pay your lords.
that's
Again, the same thing.
Same thing as before, right? So you either
Right.
do it or not, probably not, and then it's gonna.
Okay, so we'll do in pay.
I can. So now I
then
can
you
pay
have
my
another pay
lords. So I'm
phase.
gonna say and pay, right? And now I have to. So now I have Rudolf, right? So it's still not Herman. It's Rudolf. Rudolf
Okay.
is over here, right?
So just to get a sense of the scale per turn here, so we're still in that very first opening summer turn,
Yep.
and we have to go, and we're going to go back and forth between all of the cards in our plan.
6 times.
Right? You said the plan, right? So the plan dictates the turn order between your lords, and then we go back and forth. Right. So now it's your 2nd card on the plan.
Card on the plan. Exactly. Okay. And that counts. And then after we've done all those 6 each, that supposedly plus the levying constitutes 40 days of battle, right? That's the idea that's about 40 days. And I have only recently, about a month or 2 ago, become more interested in war games. And that's a big deal. Like the war game simulation people, that's one of the things they care about almost the most. Like how long is a turn? And
how long is a turn? What's are we doing a skirmish level? Is it like battalion size?
They don't care when they say how long is a turn. A normal human being would be like, it takes about half an hour. And they're like, oh, you're so cute.
right. They are wanting to know how closely this simulates the historical context.
Yeah, because
how
they don't care how long the turn takes.
They're in it for the long haul. Like
exactly.
we're playing Nevsky. If you want to play this for 8 hours,
just having played this as much as I have now, I've already ordered the other 2 in the series, Inferno and actually I have Almoravid. I have Nevsky and Inferno coming as physical board games on Monday. That's how much I'm into this.
Right, and those are all levy and campaign.
Those are all levy and campaign. Those are the first 3 so this I think game is from 2019. Right, I think this came out in 2019. This is like the first in the levy and campaign series, and the coin series started in like 2012, I think.
Right, same designer but different, and that's like fire. That's like Fire in the Sky.
Yeah, Fire in the Sky. Cuba Libre is the one that I'm playing on Tuesday with people at work.
Yeah,
it's the 4-player asymmetric. They're not all 4-player, but it's the like insurgents, counterinsurgents, right? Yes. Guerrilla warfare, counterinsurgency against the guerrilla warfare, that kind of stuff. Inspiration for Root, basically, right? That's how I'm getting to all this, right? This is how I've always done research my entire life. I start with the hottest, coolest new shit, and then I'm like, how did this come to be?
Reverse engineer from that.
What's the ontology here? Who are the ancestors? Right? Yes. So that's pretty much how I go about everything, and so this is no difference, right? Okay, so what can I do with this dude? Let's see. So this dude again also has a Provender and a cart. It's a little bit stronger than Yaroslav, actually exactly by this armed horse unit that is not armed in this case, right? So not like relatively significant. Has much better levying capabilities than Yaroslav, who can only muster more militia, whereas this person here has like a couple of like pretty strong vassals, right? Now, these are not active right now, these two. Those are things I could levy next turn. But I can only levy either at a friendly stronghold or on friendly ground, right? So if for whatever reason I end the turn having not taken over Izborsk, then I will not be able to levy with them, which is not good. It's not great. So I'm going to try to get as many units over here. I could also like do other stuff, like try to get to Ostrov and start ravaging your lands down here.
Right.
If you are ever trying, it's one action to do that, unless you are adjacent to an unbesieged enemy lord. Then it's 2. That's another change they introduced into the second version, like the update to the game. Previously, that wasn't 2 actions. Now it's 2 actions. But, again, I think my best bet here is to start going over here. And this dude has 3 actions, so I could make it all the way to Izborsk. I think that's what I'm going to do, right? I don't see any other, really, going here and here and then being like, ooh, I'm going to start going down here and ravaging your lands. I mean, it's not terrible. I actually have to ask myself whether I think that's better or not. Right, because I could go here. Whoops. Oh, sorry. Undo.
Well, for Ostrov. Okay, so if you were to theoretically go to Ostrov to start ravaging, and I were to send somebody down, so we were talking about like how, well, at a high level, how combat would resolve, at least at the siege level. I guess like at Ostrov, like units there, is there any difference?
Huge difference.
Okay.
Huge difference because your mounted units count as mounted units, right?
Okay.
And again, I would be pelted by the fact that your dudes have archery, right?
Right.
So even
and they resolve first.
They resolve first, and my dude doesn't have archery, right? So if I go to Ostrov, right, I could go here, here, and here, right? I could do that. I could feed, and it's super cool, right? If you go down there, then, I mean, do I think that these 3 can fight these 5? I mean, you have 1 knight, and then you have 2 men-at-arms. It could get close. It could get close, right? It could get close, and his service marker is here. And if I have to retreat or can't feed because you forced me to retreat, my service marker moves to the left. So I'm gonna be honest. I don't like my option. I don't like what that sounds like, right? So I think what I'm gonna do from here is I'm gonna go straight to Izborsk, right, and just help out, right? So now if you attacked me, you would have to deal, and we haven't even talked about this yet, right? We haven't talked about combat. You would have to deal with a whole other situation, and here's what the situation looks like in general. You have this little 3x2 grid, right, where you have front lines and reserves, and then you have right, left, and center. If someone only has center and the other person has left and right, you're basically getting flanked, right?
Okay.
Because you're not going to be attacking them, but they will be attacking you. Okay. Right? So it's pretty bad to go in against 2 lords, is what I'm going to say, because of that. So right now, I've basically made it less interesting for you. Very well knowing that, even if I didn't know that what your commands are, I saw that you just got a bunch of provender, right? And I'm like, well, you're hunkering down, right? So I'm not really worried about that. And again, I could have said, well, I can go to Ostrov. There's no way you're coming out of there. Like, you just got all that provender. What, are you going to leave it all behind? Because you don't leave it behind. You just discard it, right?
Yeah.
And I could have, it's a push. It's like, again, I'd be like, are you allowing me to go down here to, what's it called? I can't read that. It's too fine print. To Velikaya River and Sorot River just to get an extra victory point? Because that's what that would be, right? Because that would be a half victory point of ravaging here, another half of ravaging here. I don't feel like you'd want me to do that, but at the same time, you'd have to, again, figure out from a triage point of view, what is it you want? What's more important, right? If I manage to storm Pskov successfully, because it's here, let's go to this here thing again. Because it's a city, it's 2 victory points, right? 2 victory points, quite a few victory points. Um, so
And that's not even counting the other spoils that come along with that.
pretty much, yeah. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
say we're staying here. I'm gonna end command, and now of course because I have the moved fought, I have to discard a preventer, and then in my feed, and I'm not paying anyone. I could again consider whether Herman gets paid, but I don't care. So that means it goes to you, right? And now
Okay.
you're back.
And
You're,
then pay
again,
your lords.
you're still on my turn. We're still in the pay phase.
Right. So we'll skip the in pay.
Right.
And then my next one is Vladislav. And Vladislav has command of 3, so he has 3 actions to take. Vladislav is
Vladislav is up here. He's in Neva.
Way all the way up in
all the way in the up,
Neva.
right? So you have to again. You technically you wouldn't know right now whether I have stacked Knud and Abel into my command deck, right? You know it because you see my plan, right? But technically you wouldn't know that, and you'd be like, well, I don't really want to lose Luga and Neva because again, these are I don't know exactly. I think they're called trade routes. But if I I don't have to fight. They don't have a garrison, right? Unlike your cities and your forts, they don't have a garrison. So if I just land there with my lords, I just take it.
It's just a free victory point.
It's a free victory point, right? Whereas if I leave that place again and you just go back onto it, it's yours again, and I lose the victory point, right?
Right. You only have the victory point as long as you hold that.
As long as you don't take it back. If I go there and get the victory point and then leave again, and you never go bother to undo that, I keep.
Then you still keep it.
I still keep the victory point. Yeah.
Right.
So you now technically have to ask yourself, okay, am I gonna because I think Yaroslav has a boat, right, and not a cart. So you could go to Vod or Kaporye, but you would have to lose the Provender, and then you'd have to basically forage there again to have the Provender. Because you can't transport it. You can transport it all the way to Novgorod, which is a viable path if you're thinking of reinforcing the efforts down here.
Right.
So that's up to you. I've seen people go to Kaporye so that they had an easy way to get back to Neva or Luga in case
Knut and It's like a half step. Yeah. Right. It's like you're advancing a little bit, but you're able to move back pretty quickly and retake Neva if they commit.
And the thing that happened in Brian's game, so Brian and I are right now at the beginning of the levy phase for the second round. I drew an event card that basically it says the Danish king died, and it allowed me to move the Knud and Abel service marker one to the left, and they had to instant disband. So he just lost, Knud and Abel did nothing for him in our game, right? Because of that event. So, because Knud and Abel did nothing in the first campaign. So you have to now figure out, am I going to try to reinforce the north because I don't want Knud and Abel to do their nasty shit in the beginning, or even just march, right? Knud and Abel could just be like, well, in that case, I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, and now I'm starting to threaten Gudov and Kablovo and the Pius River and all these places up here, right?
Right. The northern stuff. Now, so for the naval movement of Knud and Abel, is that one command gets them over to Neva, or
it does?
Do they have?
It does. It's just that they have to be able to transport their horses. So they need a boat per horse, right? So I think they and per provender. I don't remember exactly what the shipping stuff here is. I think they need a ship, maybe for 2 horses. Maybe one ship is for 2 horses and another ship is for 1 provender. There's some math there that I don't know the details
cheese wedges each are so the silver and steel cheese wedges are a horse. So that's 2 horses.
All the wedges are horses.
Yeah, right? And then everything else are footmen. Right?
Yep.
Okay, so I mean, if they want to move between a boat and 2 ships, they're probably covered.
Also, they can levy, right? So if I want to, and they have lordship 3, so the lordship is what determines how many levy points you have. They could just levy another ship if they really needed it to get all the stuff over there. But yeah, so that's what they use the ships for, right? They use the ships to get from a harbor to another harbor, and it's not like you have to go to the next harbor on the path, right?
Right.
So they can go straight to Neva, right? They can also go all the way down to Riga, right? So there's a lot of things they can do.
So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to Kapoye. I'm gonna move to Okay, so well,
So you have to
I was going to
discard.
attempt to do that.
So you're
I
gonna
have
have
to
to
discard a preventer,
discard the
right? Because
preventer. Right. So you're gonna now discard your preventer. It should pop up here. Okay, there we
because
go.
I don't have a card, right?
Exactly.
Vladislav does not have a card, so
Right.
by moving without the card,
You have to discard the preventer.
he has to
Right.
discard that
Right. So now you
to be
move.
able to march on Leighton.
Right. So now you say now you could hit March. I think there's a March button up there.
Yes, there's a march button,
And now
and
you
then
can
that
just
takes
click on Corpore. Right. And
okay.
now as your third action, you probably forage. Right. So
Forge to make sure that they stay
right,
fed.
because you need to. I mean, unless you want to lose, unless you want them to move into the box where Yaroslav is right now, which is not a great place to be.
Right. No, I would prefer for them to eat. That's kind of where I want to be. So then I'll end command on that. And then okay, you must feed lords who moved or fought. So I click on the preventer. And then all done.
Right.
I skip the in pay. And now it's back to you.
Yeah, and so again, I'm the only person who could pay themselves as Herman, and that's not the point. And now I have 3 actions with Herman. So now Herman could straight up start besieging Pskov, right? I could go all the way over there. I have the preventer, I have the cart. I could go 1, 2, 3, right? And immediately start doing that. Or I could just go join the siege action down here, right? Because I'm pretty sure that because it's already besieged, it doesn't stop me. Like, I don't think that going in there... Oh, command... Oh, wait. Yeah, I still have 1 action after that, right? If I really wanted to do that. So I could go to Pskov and start a siege. I'm not going to do that right now because I think if I click on that, I can't undo it because you're in there. So the second something like that happens, you can't just like click on that. It'll be like, oh, nope, okay, now you're starting a siege. I'll be like, no, that's not what I wanted to do.
The siege basically is a full stop to the turn. Like it immediately moves into whatever siege mode or whatever.
100%. Right, so now I can ask myself, do I want to go to Uzman and Ravage? I could, but that would cost me my entire turn because I'm still adjacent to Gavrilo, and Gavrilo is not besieged. Right, so it would cost me 2 to Ravage. But I might do that anyway because I don't think... I say I don't think... When you're storming any kind of stronghold or fort, you're not going in with that 3x2 grid. You're going only in on the center, right? And you only have 1 round if there's only 1 siege engine there, right? So I know that Herman's coming up again, right? And so what I could do now is another thing I can do is, check this out. I can go here and here, and now I can actually grab as many of these dudes as I want because I'm a marshal. And I could move them all to Pskov and do a 3-team siege on Pskov, right? Which again doesn't help me that much because again you can only march in because you're like marching in through the small portcullis, right, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And I think Pskov is way too strong right now, right? Like it's just like absurdly strong. Because
it's pretty well fortified right now.
Yeah, because you have your like, basically you have your strongest lord in there with the garrison, right? That's just me asking to get pelted, like so. I'm like, nope, that is 100% not happening. So another thing I could do is say, well, in that case, I think I'm going to send Herman down here because I think Herman's like the most likely to destroy Izborsk, right? And I want Izborsk to be destroyed because if it's not, then I will not be able to muster there in the next levy phase, right? So I'm like, I need that to happen because Pskov is not going to be the place where that happens. And here's the other annoying thing, right? I didn't even think about this. If I attack down here, so if I storm here, I have to feed every one of these dudes, right? So I'm like, oh, god damn it, right? So they would
expensive to wage war.
It's expensive, right? So I couldn't actually. I'd have to go there, move there, and then probably forage again so that I'd have enough food to feed everyone. When you're all in the same place, you can share provender. You just always have to feed yourself first, right? So you can't kill yourself. Like say you have a weaker person and you want that person to, no, you have to feed yourself first.
Okay.
So, to me, going to Uzman and ravaging feels super greedy, right? It's just like, oh, I think I'm amazing. I can do this, right? I want the half a victory point. Yeah, let's do it. That's a great idea. Like, because, right, I could go here. Oh, I'd have to. Sorry, I don't have a boat. I'd have to discard the Preventer to get there. That's 100,000. The Ravage action would give me the Preventer back, right? If I discard the Preventer now and I Ravage, I get the Preventer. So it's like, it's not that bad. It's not that big of a deal. But no. This sounds like a bad idea. We're just going straight up here. And then my third action is going to be to forage. Right, so I start having a little bit more food for the family here. Because if they all move together, they do share their assets. So Herman, Rudolph, and Yaroslav together could transport 3 Preventer. Because they have 3 carts, right?
Right. Since they're all effectively
together.
Together.
Right. So, but what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to forage, right? So now I have 2. I'm the only person who moved. I'm going to end command, and I'm going to feed Herman. And then I'm going to end feed. And now I am going to pay Yaroslav. I think I'm going to pay Yaroslav.
Just to get him off of that second.
I mean, there's no universe where you're attacking me, right? So I kind of shouldn't care about this. Because I don't think... Yeah, no. You know what? I'm just not doing that. So this is a situation I haven't actually seen yet in the 4 games I've played. Usually people split up their forces a little bit, including myself. But I'm like, whatever. Let's just do this.
We're like Stack of Doom. Let's do it. Let's get him going. So, okay, I'll skip in pay.
So you have...
Right, now I have Domash.
Domash is the Novgorodian... One of the Novgorodian lords, right?
Right.
Has his home in Novgorod.
Right. So only 2 command, no abilities, 4 Preventer and 2 cart.
Which is exactly how they set it up, so that you at least in the first turn get to a situation where you're like, okay, I have to just drop Preventer, right?
Right. You're just gonna have to discard out.
Right. Because you're not gonna. Okay. There's no point in you like reinforcing Novgorod, right?
No, Novgorod is far enough away. Like, it's not really reachable for the sea with Canute Nobble, and it's not really. It's still too deep into the land for the others to go. So, so I will take my command and go to, I guess, Sablia. And it says, okay, late March. Okay, so now...
So you could pay...
You were talking about you could do a late in March, right?
If
you were mentioning that.
You can do 2 Preventer per cart if you pay 2 actions. Right?
Okay.
So you could go to Sablia, and it would end your turn if you want to carry all 4 Preventer with you.
Okay. Or I can discard the Preventer and keep the action.
So now the thing I'll tell you about what Sally means is, say for whatever reason I start besieging Pskov with Gavrilo in it. If you ever come to Pskov with Domash, then that would initiate a field battle in front of the city of Pskov. But then you could as a free action, the person inside the stronghold can come out as a free sally action, and then you would be in the back of the attackers.
Right, because that's the requirement to be able to sally. They have to be a besieged lord, right? So you could sally.
I mean, you can come out at any point, but like if that specific situation happens, you can come out as part of the field battle being initiated in front of the city, in front of the city walls.
And there's a little more strategic value in doing that because you're not just coming out.
Oh, and I don't. Yeah, and that person doesn't get attacked by the person who's being. So the situation would be, my person would be on the defense because you moved in. But I would also have you behind me who would be fighting my reserves if there are any.
Right. So I will march down to Shilon River.
Right.
Just to go ahead and hang out here.
Yeah. No, that's probably not a bad idea because you do want to get down there faster rather than slower.
Right.
Right.
And we'll end command for now.
And then you have to feed.
And I have to feed. But we still have 2 Preventer, so we're okay.
Yeah, you're fine. Again, I think the setup there is just trying to force you to have to discard your food.
Right.
So that you see
right. It's basically, it immediately forces the issue of, okay, are you going to turtle in Novgorod for no reason, or are you going to move? And if you're going to move, either you're moving slow because you're going to do a laden march, or you're going to move fast and immediately engage with that mechanic.
Exactly.
So we'll end the feed. I already did that. Skip the end pay, and now it's back to you.
Okay, still no pay. And now I have to. So now it's Herman again, right? And now Herman only has one preventer. So if I storm now, which I kind of want to, then I would have to first. I do have 3 actions, right? So I could forge twice. In fact, I could forge once, then ravage. If I wasn't worried about ever needing food from this place again, just to get the half a victory point.
Right.
Okay. So I could forge, ravage, and then because it's a city, it would actually also give me loot, right? So I don't know if that's visible on these cards. Ravage. Yeah. Ravaging Lord adds 1 preventer plus at locale other than a region 1 loot. Right? So it's not just a region, it's something better than a region. And so that would actually be probably worth it, right? So in that case, and the other thing is, yeah, I wish I could say, cool, I got a cart, but that's not actually. I could see if I do supply now, it's going to ask me to trace a path back to here through here, but it's not going to work, right? Because I only have. I'm going to undo. Wait, did that do anything? No, wait. Let me see. Herman has 1 preventer. If I do supply, I click this. No, that actually increased my preventer. So yeah, I guess I only need 1 cart to get all the way back to my home, even though it's 2 stops, which I don't fully understand right now. I'd have to look that up again. I'm actually curious about that right now. I am going to quickly click on supply here. Possibly supply source in the seats. Okay. Select supply. The active lord must have a route between his locale and the source. A supply route is an unbroken chain of locales and ways between the active lord and the source. Supply route may enter. To add preventer, active lord must have or share at least 1 usable transport per preventer for each intervening way crossed.
For each so with the cart, you had 1 cart, so you would be able to cross 1 either.
Right. Interesting. So if I had 2 carts, then I could have gotten supply from both places, is my guess. Right.
Right, because you would have had 2 for 2 trackways. Yeah. Right. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Fair enough. So in that case, it doesn't really matter whether I forge or supply, right? Because forge does the exact same thing. Right. And then I could ravage, right? So if I ravage as my second action, now that gets a ravage token, right? So now you'll see that there's ravage 1/2. And the other thing that happened is that my victory point marker up here went to 1/2.
Right.
So now it's 1 to 1/2. If I decide that that's a good way to go,
the notion of 1/2 victory point is a little curious to me, right? Like, instead of a half victory point, why not do 1 victory point and double the others? I guess it's just because.
I think it's for reasons of this track here making sense, right? So you don't have, so that track doesn't have to go to 32.
Because you only have so many spots. Yeah, 16 keeps it. But yeah, that's a little.
So
a little odd.
I think this is risky because now I can't forage here anymore, right? So let's just demo this, right? If I undo everything and I ravage first, now my second action is only supply. It can't be forage because you can't forage in a place that's been ravaged.
Right.
And you'll
basically
notice
taking the torch to everything.
My dude got a preventer and a loot, right? So what I'm gonna
and the loot can be valuable, like you said, in payment for the other lords.
So I'm gonna just supply from here as the second action, and now I'm back at the same thing, right? 3 preventer and a loot, and now I feel somewhat confident that this could work, right? I could also just another thing I could have done instead of all of this shit is to just siege, right? I think if I siege, but I'm pretty sure that if I siege, I have to feed everyone in the field. I'm pretty sure that's the case, right? Besiege Lord, use entire card, mark all with moved fought, right? Because everyone's helping. So
and then to clear that token, you have to feed everybody.
I'm not, exactly. Which is I'm 99% for sure that's the case. Siege Storm and Sally. Remove siege markers, place conquered markers, stronghold, blah blah blah. If there's a castle, Surrounded. Wait. Surrounded, not surrendering, including the same side. Move fought. Find mark all lords of both sides. So I'm like, oh god, no.
Seems bad.
Seems bad, right? So that was another reason why maybe having all three of them there wasn't the best possible move, right? Because now I have to worry about feeding all of them, right? So it's a little bit, again, you're always between a rock and a hard place. It's always a great place to be in a board game. Yep. So again, I just undid my entire turn. So I'm gonna, and here's another thing that we can explain while we're at it. Surrender. If the siege locale has no besieged lords, so if it's just the garrison, then the besieging side may roll for surrender. A die roll less than or equal to the number of siege markers. So I'd have to roll a one or less, right? Haha, right? So it's not a great thing if you only have one siege marker there. So I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to just straight up say, to hell with it, we're going in.
Right. Now, for that rolling for surrender, does that take a siege action, like versus
it's
the
part
actual
of the siege, I think.
Okay.
Right. So it's part. If you take the siege, yes. If you take the siege action, then you could ask for surrender. So basically, I'd have to roll a 2 or less. Right.
Okay.
But also, I'd have no food to feed people with. Everyone would go down, except for Herman. Everyone else would go down 1 on this thing up here. And this is the worst idea ever. Right. So yeah, you can really mess it up, right? Like really, really, really. And once I hit next on certain things, there is no undo.
There is no undo, right?
So
yeah, this is like the dominance check in PAX Premier. Once you click on that,
exactly, you can't undo it, right?
You're already committed.
So I think what I'm going to do here is exactly what I just did multiple times now. Is I'm gonna. It doesn't even. The order doesn't even matter. Forage, ravage. Wait, what? Oh no, I can't. Okay. Live and learn again, right? Ravage, of course, because I'm adjacent to an unbesieged lord, costs 2 actions. Right? So if I forage ravage, that's it. Right?
Okay.
So I have to forage, right? Till I have 3 provender for Rudolph and Yaroslav, and now I can storm. And I'm going to do it, right? Just so that we get our hands dirty, right? So I'm going to storm now. I'm going to click storm. And immediately I have no undo. The second you do that, you're like, oh, we're in, right?
We're doing this.
So now this gets a storm marker because you would normally take these tokens off the board and move them to this battlefield, right? Which this is the large version of wherever.
Oh wow! Yeah, this has a whole thing now that just showed up. Okay.
So siege, storm, sally, battle. There's a large version of this thing, right? Of this 3x2 grid, right? This thing, right? They say either put the cylinders on the grid or put the lords in front of each other like this. And so basically, what this version does is just puts the lords out on a field, right?
Okay. Right. So now, separate. If you're playing this physically, this is a separate play map that's broken. That's you break away to do this.
So here's the thing: your dudes have archery, right? So they have archery with -2 on shields. So and the thing is, they will. And I think what you have to do now is either click on the dudes or click on the wall. I'm not sure, but it's deterministic, right? For the most part, because it's going to basically say, okay, these are 0.5. Every time you make a hit, it's rounded up, right? So that would be a single hit. And I have 1 siege engine, so I would roll for blocking it with the siege engine, but I'd have to roll a 1 or less. But I think the second you click on the wall or on the men-at-arms, you'll see what that means, right? So those should be...
And it looks like, hovering over it, it looks like the wall and the men-at-arms, it's just one thing. So if I click on that...
Okay, so what happened now is Siegeworks 1 rolled a 4. So now I have to assign a crossbow hit. And a crossbow hit, of course, is -2, right? I think the lowest it can go is 1, but also because I am storming, I have to absorb it with armored units first, right? So you'll see here, right? I can only click on either one of the 3 knights. Sorry, this is not a knight, but like the sergeant or the 2 men-at-arms. My men-at-arms have ballistari. So I don't want to get rid of those. I really don't want to lose the sergeant, but I think the sergeant's going to have to roll a 1 to survive, right? So this is the part that I love maybe the most of the entire game. This is the push your luck, right? I could also be like, I think one of the knights could do this, right? It's a 1 in 3.
Right.
But do I want to lose my freaking knights? The knights they're not great in storms, but on the field they're a nightmare to deal with, right? Now you can never have more than I think 6 melee hits like on any of the turns, right? So 3 knights would be maxing that out because it's ×2. But I'm just going to put it on the sergeant, and the sergeant's probably going to die, so I'm going to click on it. Oh my god. I rolled a 1. I'm so sorry. So, I don't know if you see this in the chat. It says sergeant's 1. I see it. Oh my god.
Yes. -2 crossbow.
I feel like, okay, now we're playing the Shores of Tripoli all over again. So
we only rolled 1 dice.
You didn't even route that, right? So now I have a Tarking Archery, Herman, 1 crossbow hit. So the reason that's 1 crossbow hit is because I think when I'm storming, I don't think you have the walls as defense. But no, you know what? It's not true. I'm going to click on my Herman now. Oh, so you had walls. So you had walls 1, 2. Normally your walls are 1 to 3, but because I have trebuchets, they're -1.
That takes the -1.
And now you have to take a crossbow hit because it got through, and I think that's going to end.
That's going to end it.
So now your dude has routed, but because it's the garrison, it just dies. It doesn't route.
Yeah, it just goes. Yeah, right? It just goes out.
And now my spoils are 1 preventer, 1 coin, 1 loot. Right. So now Herman is I got another preventer. I got a coin. Wait. 1 second. Oh, I haven't assigned it. So I have to click on this. Oh, right. Because what I can do is because Rudolph and Yaroslav are in the same spot, I can split this up now between the 3 of them.
Right.
So I can decide who gets the cart. And I think it's Herman. I think I want Herman to have the cart. Oh, wait. There's no cart. Oh, right. There's no cart. There's preventer,
coin, and loot.
And coin. So I'm going to give Yaroslav the coin because Yaroslav's going to want to pay himself anyway.
You're going to want to pay that, yeah.
And then I'm going to give maybe Rudolph the loot. Or the preventer. I'm going to give Rudolph the preventer. And then I'm going to give Herman the loot. You know what? I don't know. Let's just give Herman the loot. Okay, end spoils. And now also I have a conquered 1 VP there, right? So now you'll see up here, now it's 1 to 1, right?
Okay. Now this is, we were talking earlier about, okay, if you were to take the trade route and it was unattended, you would have that, and then I would have to come back to reclaim it to be able to reclaim that victory point. Is it the same thing here? Like if I want to take back?
This thing now has my garrison in it.
Right.
So
So if I would have to restorm.
You'd have to restorm it, exactly, which is not the case for trade routes like Luga and Neva.
Right, because there's no garrison. In those cases. Right? But now that you've taken it, you get access to the garrison.
This is the part where if I was a professional YouTuber, I would actually say turn on the Klingon subtitles, because I don't know if I'm doing. I'll put corrections in the subtitles later if I said something wrong, but I'm not a professional anything, right? I'm a professional. I'll just leave it at that.
Doing okay.
I'm a professional. I'm a professional at something.
You're the chair of the department, Andy.
I am the chair of the department, but I also am a jack of all trades, sort of. I think. Oops.
There you go.
Wow, it's so dark in here. 1 second. The sun was blasting in here earlier.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's definitely a much more ominous looking stream.
I mean, it's the afternoon. Also, it's California's. It's like 50 degrees here right now, which is very unusual even for this time of year for us. And it was like 38 last night, and I was like, oof.
Wow.
Yeah, we're not used to that. Californians
not
like
thick, 38.
Not thick-skinned over here. And I lived in Germany for forever, 29 years, right? But you lose that skin real quick. Okay, so I have no more actions. So now I'm going to end my turn by hitting end command. But now they all have to eat, right?
Yes.
Now Yaroslav doesn't have food, but that's probably fine because what I can do now is like first Rudolph can feed, and then Herman can feed, and then Yaroslav can feed from Herman, right? Like so, right? But first they had to feed themselves, right?
They had to feed themselves first.
Right.
Before they could share.
Exactly. So now I end feed, and now I could pay. And I think at this point, I'm going to pay Yaroslav because otherwise I'm just going
Right.
to
To
forget it.
shift him
So
over.
now he
And now
shifted.
he's over
So
in
now
early
he's
winter.
over in that spot. And now I could use the loot and the coin to move Rudolph and Herman up by 1, 2. Right? Now Herman, I'm not worried about. Herman's in 4. Rudolph, eh, eh. Right? Like, there's nothing wrong, I think, with paying them. Because, I mean, what am I going to use the money for anyway? Right?
Right.
Now, coin I can carry with me without a cart. Loot I cannot. With loot, you are always
Mm.
laden. So I'm going to use the loot to
Might
pay.
as well use the loop because that's gonna hamper your
Yeah.
movement. the
So
rest
I
of the
moved.
way.
I moved. Wait, what just happened? Let's undo that. Oh
Said
no.
paid Yaroslav.
No, I paid Yaroslav. Right. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm paying Yaroslav with that loot, and as a result, Yaroslav went up to 4.
Yes.
Do I really want to pay? Wait, no. Undo.
I was gonna say I thought you wanted instead of
I wanna
Yaroslav, you were
I'm
talking
paying
Rudolph.
paying Rudolph, right, with the loot.
Right.
So now
There you go.
that's what I wanted, right? And technically, I could move Yaroslav up there too, right? I could move Yaroslav up there too, and I think again, this is like I've seen it happen one too many times, where you just lose battles and stuff happens and you slide to the left and so you know what? I'm just gonna. No, I'm
Right.
not. I'm gonna end pay right there. There's it. That's it.
Yeah,
We're done.
right.
We're done.
Right. It's still like it's okay, but I can understand where like okay, especially like if we were playing the longer campaign, like you would want a little more cushion there because
Right.
you're definitely more at risk with that. So
So the thing is that this is we're almost at the end of this now, right? So you have 2 more actions. Sorry, 3.
I have 3.
I have 2. And then the question is going to become like because again I want to be able to levy and I can't let if I start trying to go into Pskov now I can't do like I won't be able to levy, right, which is not what I want for the next round.
So yeah, I have Gavrilo for my next.
Yeah, so you again find yourself in a situation where, right, what is it you're trying to do? Well,
Right.
we're now tied on victory points, which is not great for you.
Right.
You can try to figure out whether some of your other folks can start ravaging the land. I don't know. Honestly, this is all. It's only my. I've never finished a game, even of the quick start, with a human. I've only played 2 quick start scenarios myself. And they usually ended in disaster, like disaster in the sense that I didn't know what I was doing, and I would like bounce off of a castle or some other. I played in the game with Brian. I literally did not know that you had to retreat to where you came from. He was besieging Pskov with the Teutons. I came in with Gavrilo thinking that I could concede immediately, right? Like on round 1, because otherwise you just keep on fighting until all units are routed. But I was like, if I concede, then I can like withdraw into the stronghold.
Right, you can like head fake and then pull back, and it was like, but you couldn't pull back into the stronghold.
It was too Monty Python, right? I was in my head. I was like, the jester in me was like, woo, I'm gonna run in and hit him in the face and then withdraw into the stronghold. And it's like, nope, no, you're not.
Yeah.
And he thought
Like
that
the
was
song
so
in Hamilton, attack, retreat, attack,
exactly.
Retreat,
So I was like, okay, this isn't happening. So I couldn't do that because you have to retreat to where you came from.
Yeah. So this is, I mean, the thing with Gavrilo, like, I mean, I'm kind of already in for just hanging out there. He only has, I mean, the second that I move anywhere, I'm discarding 3 provisions.
It's true. You are, and I mean, it's a bad. I have 3 dudes at your front door, right?
Right.
They are literally next door, and because Herman can, I mean, to be clear, they're not going to do a whole lot this turn, I think, because there's, I want to be able to levy with them, and to be clear, levying with them means I could also get another ability, right?
Right.
And so, yeah.
It's how much do I anticipate that okay, you're coming to Shkov next.
Probably,
You
but
know,
I don't even know if that would have. So if I so because my next
is
command,
there value in you doing that though? Right?
mm,
Like, can you
may,
nibble around the
here's the
edges
thing.
and
My
Rabbit?
next action is Rudolph. Rudolph is not a marshal, so he couldn't pull the others with him. So he'd be going to that alone, which is a terrible idea.
Right.
Um, so probably on my last action, I could decide whether Herman's coming over, and then we'd only have one siege engine, and we'd have to rout you entirely in that one turn. Otherwise, we all have to retreat. Right.
Right.
Well, retreat. We'd be technically we'd all be on the field, and you'd have to decide whether you're going to retreat into the stronghold. And if you retreat in the stronghold, that just ends the turn. Right?
Right.
But then I am no longer at a friendly stronghold, which means that I would be able to levy with none of my lords. I haven't lost any units yet, but you can see easily how I want Rudolph to get like 2 more strong dudes. Yaroslav's going to get garbage. Herman's not going to muster anymore because he's already at 6. But at least he can get like, I don't know, more carts or something, right?
Right. So I mean, just in the interest of time, because we have like 30 minutes, I think, before we hit 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean
I'm gonna go.
yeah,
I'm gonna hunker down. I'll forage the rest of the way here,
okay.
and have an absurd amount of provender. Um, we're gonna hang out for a while,
Right.
and we'll lose some off of wastage anyway, right?
Yep.
So,
Oh yeah, well,
but
you'll lose one.
we'll lose
You'll
one.
lose one off
Uh,
of wastage, right? Which is fine.
so,
I have never seen 8 provender. That's hilarious. That is hilarious. Okay, end pay.
so I guess when does that wastage get applied? Because I was expecting to have to do it there.
Oh no! It's at
Um,
the end. It's a part of cleanup. I think
it's a part of the cleanup of of the round.
of the campaign
Okay,
of the
got
round,
it.
right?
Got
So I can't. There's actually like 5 or 6 people watching, and 0 people are saying anything. People are probably like, "What are these idiots doing?"
it.
Have you?
It's Nevsky.
It's like guys, have you lost your mind? You could just play like I don't know, like Caper or Settlers or something. It's like, no, I need this. I need this for my mental well-being.
We need operational medieval
Yeah.
warfare.
I cannot begin to
1240.
describe how happy this map makes me, right? Like in my head, I know this is warfare, but in my head, this is like European nostalgia in some dumbass way, right? That makes no sense, right? But it's like I'm just like, ooh, old cities and blah blah blah, and people
There's
fighting,
history here.
right? So I'm like, there's something about it that's like just like tickles my brain, and then having all this extra detail of a system that when you play this, you're investing into like the next 10 to 15 years of people making titles for this series, right?
Right.
Where you will not have to relearn. Yes, there's Almoravid has politics all of a sudden, right? But the basic ideas of movement and siege and blah, they're the same, right? And that's the same with the coin series. So,
Right.
so yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
and you see that a lot in like the coin series, Command and Colors. Like, there's a
Right.
few of those different ongoing
Oh
series.
yeah, and Command
that,
and
like,
Colors would
I
actually
mean,
like obviously if we'd never played a game like this before, then I'd always say, oh, the first one should for sure be like Memoir 44, right?
right.
Which you can play on Board Game Arena, right?
Yes.
Also, not that we're going to do this today, but like I did play recently a game of Undaunted Normandy on Tabletop
Yeah.
Simulator, and the mod on Tabletop Simulator is the scripting is surprising. It does all the setup, right?
Really?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
pretty good.
Yeah,
So
I
they're easier
remember
games.
Klein had been talking about that.
Yeah.
He had talked about that in the Discord, and I had sort of I had wish listed it
It's
on my
good.
miniature market page. So and it just hadn't come back in stock.
It's
so.
really really good. I'll definitely play. I will gladly teach that at any point on. But again, it's a TTS mod.
Right.
And playing this on Vassal is you can do it if you know how to use Vassal, and I don't want to learn. I'm sorry. I know that that makes me a bad wargamer, but like I'm just like Vassal is such a. Ugh.
Vassal is to wargamers like VI is to programmers.
Pretty
I think
much.
the people like they get there and they evangelize, but if you aren't in, you don't want to be in, right? Like I don't want to pick up Vassal for anything.
No, when they
willingly.
play it, some people are like sad that people aren't playing PAX Premier on TTS or Vassal anymore because of the
Because of
because of
Rally the
Rally the
Troops.
Troops, right? They're like, oh no, I want to go back to TTS, and it's like, really? Like, do you
It's
really
like
want to
if
go
you
back to TTS?
Rally the Troops, like, I mean, if the implementation there's really well. I mean,
Yeah.
if you like the game, go. I would say go where the game goes. You know.
Yeah, I
But
mean, if you like the game, I would say go buy the game because you cannot, like,
that too.
specifically for PAX, you cannot do it justice, right? PAX has like everything about the production is amazing, right?
Yeah, looking at the component quality and the pictures of the online, like,
Nuts,
yeah, it's
right?
gorgeous.
Like
Yeah.
Whirligig does an amazing job of production quality, so it's like, yeah, you can't really replace that. Okay, so Rudolph has 3 actions, and I think what Rudolph's going to do now is going to use 2 of them to ravage so that we get that out of the way. Wait, Rudolph can't ravage. Why can't I not ravage? That is interesting. Forge supply pass.
Is it because
I'm not
you're
in.
in Isborsk and it's yours right now, and you can't ravage
Oh,
your own land, right?
oh my God, you're right. Oh no.
You took it too
I
quickly.
took it too quickly. I should have done it on the last turn because that actually just straight up cost me half a victory point, right?
Right, because yeah, you could have had that and then done the storm this turn, and picked it up. You know, assuming that the dice rolls go the same
That
way,
is
and they probably would.
so unfortunate. That is so unfortunate because now I'm just going to basically waste, similar to you, I'm going to waste the rest of this turn, sort of, right? I was hoping,
Right.
yeah, I can't. That's probably exactly what it is, right? Like if I look at Ravage now, it's probably going to say, not own territory, conquered, friendly, or ravaged, right? So
Right.
it's conquered. I didn't know that. Live and learn.
Now there we go.
So I should have ravaged it first. If I lose by a half a victory point, I'm gonna be like, Jesus Christ. Okay, so in that case, what's gonna happen here? So later on when I move into Pskov, how much provender do I need? Well, I only have 1 cart per person, so either I'm gonna levy more carts to have more food with me, or what? I don't know. I mean, I guess I still forage here, right? Forage. I mean, what else am I gonna do? What else?
Everybody's loading up for
It's not. I'm not gonna.
it.
I'm not gonna move away, right? End command.
Right.
Oh, and it doesn't. He's not even eating, right? Because he didn't move, right? It's the
Yeah.
first time. Yeah, it's like nothing happening, right? I don't like this. But
Right. You
whatever.
don't. Yeah. You don't have the moved fought counter to resolve
Yeah,
there.
and I mean,
So,
going to Ostrov to like ravage at this point, I just don't see that being a good idea. Also, I couldn't levy there, right? And Rudolph for sure wants to levy, for sure, right?
all right. So I have Damash
Yeah. So
with
Domash
2
is
actions.
yeah, Domash is coming from the
I'm
river.
coming from the river. Yeah. So if we go to Dubrovno,
So if you go to Pskov, if you both withdraw into there, I think on the attack again it's only 1v1, right? And then the rest will be reserves.
okay.
But it's going to be nigh impossible for me to take over that thing with both of you in there. But I will probably be able to besiege it pretty easily, and then I can start having my dudes ravage the countryside. Right.
Right.
So that's the thing I would ask myself in your situation now, whether you think that Pskov can like survive by just 1 person there.
Right. I mean, it is Gavrilo. He's the strongest one that I've got. Effective. Well, yeah.
Gavrilo plus the
Plus the garrison.
garrison is pretty strong. Like I would probably not be able to take that on like a single siege engine is my guess. I'd probably have to like besiege it for a moment, right? So
Right.
that I at least have like a wall of 3 so that not everything that you shoot at me hits me, right? And I'd need the 3 rounds too. I'd probably need a multiple rounds to take over Pskov is my guess.
So I wonder, like, so rather than pushing immediately to Pskov, I know I'm gonna have to resolve that moved fought token. I only have 1 provender. If I forage now to pay for my movement there, like I hang out in Dubrovno, I have the option of reinforcing Pskov if you want to make a push,
Right.
or next turn I can go down to Ostrov if you want to make a move there, or I have.
Well, you
I
can't. Yeah,
feel like
that would be 2. I mean, that would be. Yeah, you could do that.
That would be 2, right? And I'm just saying, like, I still basically keep the preventer that I have now
Right.
for next turn.
Let's just
If I need to make
let's
that
be
move.
honest. Something big is happening in Pskov.
Yeah, I was gonna say something's
Right?
happening in Pskov.
Like
Yeah,
we're definitely trying to what we're trying here is trying to actually reenact what happened historically, right?
yeah,
Although the Battle of Izborsk it only happened here, right?
right.
And there was a battle on the Neva, which we couldn't even do because um, what the Knut and Abel weren't activated, right?
Weren't activated on your turn, so
Right.
so so yeah. It's like, do I want to hang back and potentially push to Pskov, or go ahead and go to Pskov and just start loading up?
That very much depends on whether you think that you can hold it with one person, is my guess, right?
I
Because
think I can hold it. I'm feeling like I can hold it with one person for one turn, and if I need to reinforce, I
because
can bring in.
you can also move to the like you can start moving down to like Rostrov and then like Galia and Rositin and like you can start ravaging my countryside, right?
Right,
Um,
right,
while I'm like having 3 dudes besiege Pskov, right? And then I'm like, is this a race I can win? I don't know, right? Because
right.
I was
Now,
dumb. I
if
was
I
dumb enough to not ravage Izborsk before I stormed it.
if I push to Pskov, can I use one of Gavrilo's Prevender to resolve the move fought token on Domash?
Well, let me see. Gavrilo. Oh yeah. Can you? Yes, I think the answer to that is yes because they share the space.
They would share the space, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do that.
Also Domash has a preventer,
Well, yeah, I know. I'm just
and
thinking.
Domash will eat that preventer.
Gavrilo has 8.
No, no, Domash will eat that preventer first. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. So that's okay. So he'll eat it before.
I think so. You could click on him and then try to click on the preventer from Gavrilo, but I think the feed yourself
It
first.
won't let me.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
you have to.
it has to. Okay, so
Yeah,
that's okay. We'll go ahead and do it from there. That's fine. Okay, so we're done. And then skip the payment of the lords, and then
So
it goes back to you.
So now I have Herman, and again, Herman also is doing nothing now, right? Because why, right?
Right.
So I think
There's
Herman,
no advantage to push.
and he has 3 actions, which again, what a nightmare. Forage, 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 right? Like, but no way is all that is that all that coming with me, and pay. Okay, so now you're at pay, and you have another turn, and it's probably it's Domash again.
It's Domash, yeah. And so now I guess I can go ahead and just forage for Domash to have extra preventer if I'm hanging out in Pskov.
Yep.
Just for now, because I don't.
Yeah. No, you can.
I might as well turtle here to see what you're going to do, and then I can react.
Yeah, I think that's probably not a bad idea. But again, this is the first time I'm seeing this actually play out in this way.
Right. Okay, so then.
So there's no pay here.
Pay back to you.
Okay, now wastage.
Here's our wastage.
Okay, discard 1 astrocable from each affected lord. Okay, so now Herman has to discard something. I think Herman's going to just straight up discard the Prevender because I'm not going to discard a coin. Although, right. No, because I'm going to have to throw away Prevender anyway. So let's do that. Knut and Abel. Ugh. Do they need boats?
It feels like Prevender is always the first thing to go because that's the easiest thing to reclaim. It's the easiest to
get, right? So Knut and Abel are also going to get rid of a Prevender. And then Rudolf von Kassel is also going to get rid of a Prevender. All done. Okay, and now we get to reset. You may discard any Arts of War cards. So why would you do that? Well, maybe you look at their top half and you're like, oh, I want to be able to draw that during the events phase in the next round.
In the next round.
And then you'll be like, there's no way I'm giving up on these abilities, right? Although Yaroslav, questionable whether I need that.
Is there a way in Rally the Troops to see, to see the event that corresponds? Because right now, like looking at the Yaroslav, I see the capabilities lower half.
Oh, you have to shift click. You have to hit shift.
Shift click. Okay.
No, not shift click. Just hit shift.
And then shift, and then that.
And then you see the top half, right?
Okay. Interesting.
Hold play of 2 times. So there are events that play out immediately, and sometimes they're just dead events because they don't do anything special because the character's not on the board yet. Right. And then there are hold events. Like the one on Yaroslav says, play of Teuton Lord closer than any Russian to Kaibalova or Corporier for it to conquer it. No spoils.
Right.
Right.
Held events are like almost like tactical maneuvers, like things that you can play in certain
Yes,
situations.
they are. And right now, you'll see if you look in the upper right corner, it says 0 held on both of us.
Right. Yeah. Neither of us are holding
Neither of us
anything.
are holding anything. So, right.
Okay.
And then again, Bountiful Harvest, Bridge. I'm not going to overthink this now. I'm just going to say, like, I'm not discarding anything. And now you have to do the same thing, right? So now you have to.
So
now you're going to get rid of your provisions.
Vision, all done, and wastage.
And then
I
you
am not.
can also decide to discard, but why would you do that?
I can't see a reason to do that.
Yeah. Okay,
Right,
so now we
now-
go to turn 2, and now we are in the levy phase.
We've completed the first turn.
Completed the
Andy,
first
we
turn.
did
Well,
it.
half of the first turn.
half of the first round.
That said,
So-
levying is faster than you may think it is, right? So,
Right.
so I just drew out Arts of War. It's a hold card. It says Teutonic Fervor. Play on Rudolph to shift cylinder 2 calendar boxes or for lordship +2. Right? So
What would the lordship +2 mean in this case? Is that
lordship +2? Oh, it would
I guess-
give him a +2 on muster, which is
Right.
pretty good, right?
right?
Play on Rudolph.
Right. Lordship comes into play with the levying phase. We haven't really talked about that to this
Right.
point. We talked about command and
Right.
service a little bit.
So
but
I'm
not
gonna hold.
lordship.
I'm gonna hold on to this, and I don't know exactly when I can play it, to be perfectly honest. Okay, the next one is Grand Prince favors a son on calendar shift. Alexander or Andre, or furthest right service of either 2 boxes. This is one of those dead ones, right? So Alexander and Andre are the two lords of Novgorod, and they don't come into the game until later, right? So you don't have Alexander or Andre right now, right? So that card, I can say play, but that's actually the only option I have, right? I'm gonna hit play, but it's gonna do nothing because those dudes aren't out yet, right?
Okay.
Now you get Arts of War, right? So now you get the same. I can't see your cards now, so you basically have to just say what you're seeing.
Right. So the Grand Prince, when you play it, like where does it end up going, or does it even end up going anywhere? Because I don't even see it on the board.
So
right.
on count, no, it goes away. It gets discarded.
Yeah, it just gets
shift
discarded.
Alexander or Andre or furthest right service of either 2 boxes, right? So I can shorten their service.
Okay.
Right, but they're not there, right? So there's nothing for me to shorten.
Okay. I could try to share my screen. I don't know if that would help necessarily.
do it. Just tell me what's the card.
Yeah. So I've got.
Here's the thing. I can look at this.
You can look at it, right?
Yeah,
so
I can look at what's the name of the card.
It is Pelgui or Peldrui. It's baptized in Grand.
I see it right here. Okay, hold.
Right, so I can hold
play
it.
Play on Vladislav or Karelians to shift cylinder 2 calendar boxes. Cylinder
or for lordship
cylinder or for lordship +2. So the cylinder is if the cylinder is on the calendar and you'd want to muster them sooner, right?
Okay.
But you're not. They're all Vladislav is out, and the Karelians don't exist in this game, right? But similar to me, you can later on use this to give Vladislav, who's one of your guys. You can give Vladislav lordship +2, which I think, again, if I'm thinking this correctly, will give him the ability to do extra muster actions or extra levy actions, right? Because the lordship, I think, mostly plays a role for mustering and levying.
Okay. And then, so the capabilities with the Streltsy crossbowman, we can't play that at least at this phase.
Not at this
right?
phase. So, this is the events phase.
Okay, so we'll hold it. It doesn't look like I even have a choice.
You don't have a choice.
We'll hold that. And then the next one I have is Bridge. Hold may play on front center Teutonic Lord in non-winter battle. He melee strikes with units up to twice round number. Which I feel like I need to read that 3 more times to understand what it's saying.
Units up to twice round number. Huh? May play on front center Teutonic Lord. I'm the Teutonic Lord, right?
Okay.
He melee strikes with units up to twice round number. He. I would have to look up an
So
FAQ
so
for
does
that card.
that? I mean, I'm curious if that's even is that effectively a dead event for me because it seems like I would want to play it on me to be able to melee strike twice.
My guess is that we're not I mean, we're both confused by this. May
Yeah,
play on front side.
yeah.
So because it's a hold card, right? It's a hold card, which means
We'll just hold it.
say we're in a non-winter battle, and there's a front center Teutonic Lord, which there always has to be a front center Teutonic.
There always
Lord,
has to
right?
be right because
So now you'd play that on that person, and then he melee strikes with units up to twice round number. So battles go through rounds, right?
Yeah.
So if it's the first round, it would be twice. But why would that person want to melee strike twice? Maybe you get melee struck twice. I don't know.
I'm gonna hold it.
I mean, you have no other option.
I have no other option. I'm just trying to discern like the potential strategic value while we're here, but I'm not.
I
Sure
don't
I'm
understand what that
yet.
means, right? I definitely don't understand what that means.
That's an odd one.
But I'm sure.
All right, we'll send it back to you. We'll send it back to you, and I guess is that. So you have a payment phase here. Are we still in the levy part, or have we moved?
Oh, we're still in the levy part, right? So even
Okay.
even with the payment now, I'm going to end pay, and then you end pay, and then probably I have to start. Yeah, levy.
You can muster now.
So now it's levy muster with my lords, right? So now I can pick any of my 4 lords because they're all in friendly territory, right? And now I have to see hand Teutonic Fervor. So play on Rudolph. So if I click on Rudolph, so check this out. I can probably play this now. Boop. Yep. Right. Muster through play Teutonic Fervor. Play for +2 lordship. So he should have 3 muster points now instead of +2 lordship. Yes, please. Yeah, he should have levy. Rudolph has 3 actions. Normally Rudolph has 1 action.
Okay.
Right. So the first thing he's going to do is for sure muster these dudes, because that's what a powerhouse.
It's like what it's here for. Yeah.
And now I have other options, right? So I'm not going to muster these as much as I'd like to because it put me to 7, which is bad, right? So I have 2 Provender, and most of the things I'm doing around here are with carts. So I think I'm definitely going to muster a cart as my second to be able to carry more Provender. And now the third could be a capability. So this is where it gets wild. I literally can look at any of these, right?
Oh, and right. This is what you're talking about, where you could select any card.
Any card, right? So any card that's not in play, right? So if I go here now and I say capability, it's going to show me all the available cards. And now these available cards are not all cards because some of them I've maybe held or they're already in play, right?
So this is interesting. So like playing this on the tabletop, I guess you would just take the art, because the Art of War deck normally has all of these cards. So you would take the Art of War deck, thumb through, find the one you wanted,
and then attach
slot it, and then reshuffle.
Yep. And so look, it's already. This is again why I love tabletop Rally the Troops so much. I can't play Treaty or Stensby or Cogs because it's not for Rudolph, right? Like it doesn't fit Rudolph. Right, so that's why it's great. Why I can't click it. It's not. There's no highlight box around it. So the thing is, obviously, crossbowmen is amazing, right? And now I think Rudolph has. Well, you know what? This would only be 1 dude, right? It would only be 1 dude. So maybe crossbowmen for Rudolph is actually not that strong, right? Because it's only men at arms for the men at arms, right? So it's not that great. Ravage locale adjacent by trackway. This lord with horse, once per command card, may ravage locale adjacent by trackway where no enemy lord. I kind of like that. Let's do that. Raiders.
Sounds good.
And that's it, right? So that was it for Rudolph. Rudolph used his 3. He got a cart, he got another vassal, and he got an ability. Right? So Yaroslav has 1 lordship. That's it, right? And I think Yaroslav's just going to get these 2 more militia, right? Just do that.
Just go ahead and load it up. Yeah.
That's it with Yaroslav.
And so that on the little chit that you moved up, that number is the amount of lordship that it takes.
No, that number is. You can play an advanced version of this where you have to put these on the calendar too. to see like it's
Oh,
like a second.
it's like it takes time for them to rally up or to.
No. It's how long they would serve you, right? It's another service marker.
Oh.
So it's a service marker on top of a service marker.
Okay, that's. I feel like that's too much. That's a bridge too far.
Yeah,
I'm,
but
I'm,
you
I'm
but
glad that we're not
but you
doing
can
that.
do it. You can
You
do
can do
it.
it if you want.
You can do it if you want.
Knock yourself out.
Yeah.
I'm
So
good.
so now Herman is a little bit different, right? I think Herman straight up wants carts because again, Herman's not gonna like if I get more people, I'd much rather have mustered these, but that's not Herman would have had to lose at least 1 unit for that, or 2 units for that to make sense, right? 1, 2, 3. No, he only has 6, right? Yeah, he would have to lose 2 units, and then I would have been like, oh, cool, now I have slots for these dudes, right? So I think what I'm gonna do with Herman is I can also do capabilities, but then I have to discard other capabilities, and I think the Ballistari and the Trebuchet are just too strong.
Right. There's a maximum of 2 that you can have per lord.
Exactly. There's a you can see physically you can't fit a third one.
You're right. You just can't fit a third one. That makes sense.
So definitely get a cart and a cart, so that I can transport the Provender.
Right.
As I ideally don't want to throw it away. And then the third thing is I don't even know, a boat. Right? Like maybe I get a boat because I don't or another cart. If I ever want to go along waterways, I'm just screwed, right?
I mean, looking at the southern part of Russia beyond Pskov, like it's waterway to Ostrov, waterway to the river, waterway to like. There's actually quite a bit of water to make it inroads. So
I'll get a. Do I care? Let's just get a boat. Let's just get a boat. Right? No, undo.
I think that would.
Get a cart. Get a cart.
Get all the carts.
Okay. And I think that levy muster with your lords. Okay, so I did all of that, but now I only have an undo button up there. So why do I? Who do I? Oh wait.
Did you do Canute and Abel?
Canute and Abel. I did not do Canute and Abel. So Canute and Abel, right? Again, getting more dudes is just a waste. And now I'd have to look up. So I'm going to very briefly look up what ship transport entails. Right, so that I can see here on the rules, like there's probably transport, feed, pay, disband, siege, battle, march. Where's march? It would be under march. Find ship here. No, lordship. That's not what I'm looking for.
Right. So boats and ships are usable in Rapatitsa in summer. Boats are usable on waterways. Ships are usable at seaports and by Russians at Novgorod for supply.
Carts are usable in summer. Lordship, yeah, of course.
If we were playing into winter, you can get sleds.
Levy transport. Lord are friendly levy ships up to 8. Levy capabilities. No, that's not what it is. You have got to be kidding me. Why not supply? Plus ship. Nope.
It's for sale. An unbesieged lord at a seaport during
sale. That's
summer. It's if you look for sale, it's 473.
Sale. Now winter may use all actions command card move directly from one seaport to this free unseen ships. Sharing marshals may take along other lords. Lieutenants, blah blah blah. Totalians must have at least 1 ship per horse unit. Russian lords must have 2 ships per horse unit because their ships suck, I guess. In addition, sailing lords must lose 1 ship per provender and 2 ships per loot. Okay, so what does Canute have? A provender, 2 horses. Right. So I'd need to take along. I'd need another ship. So that's for sure. Levy another ship. And then maybe I want another ship and a cart, right? Ship and a cart, and that's probably it. And that's going to end my muster. That's it. Okay. So I mustered, and that ends the levy phase for me, right?
Okay. And so now it moves over to me. So from here, so I can I'm at 5 for Domash and Gavrilo. So there's value in going ahead and I guess. Well, so for Domash, all of his muster options are 2.
Yeah.
So that's probably 2. That puts us into territory we
Well,
don't
you
want
could
to be
also
in.
you could also like try to be like, oh, he's gonna attack me right away, and some of my dudes are gonna rally. But keep in mind that you always rally your garrison first, right? The
Right.
garrison takes the hits first, so you'd probably have to feed on every attack or every round. To be clear, if we go through multiple rounds of attacking on the siege, I think that still counts as one move fight, right? It's not like it
Okay.
stacks for every round.
It doesn't
It
stack for
doesn't
each
stack,
round.
but you would have to pay two, right, to feed them.
Okay.
I don't know what would happen, so I don't. If you couldn't pay two and you could only pay one, I don't think one of them would die. I think you just literally go one left on the calendar, right?
On the calendar,
And your dudes
which
can't get out of there. If they ever go past the current round marker, they're dead. They don't even withdraw or disband for future levying. They're just gone.
right.
Right.
And, well, so and Domash right now is actually all the way at 5. He's in late winter.
Sorry. Yeah. Oh no, he's gonna. Your guys are pretty safe, right?
Yeah. So I guess go ahead and muster. How do I muster?
Oh, you have to. So what do you want to? What are you trying to muster now? First, you have to click on the Lord.
Okay. So click. So I'm on. Domash.
What do you want to muster? So
Click on the
you have two
Lord.
lordship.
Oh, you have to click on the coat of arms.
Yeah,
Okay, I
yeah,
see. Yeah,
yeah.
so you click on them, and then you can bring that,
So now you got to
and
feed.
that
See,
puts
see
us
what
into
I see?
feed.
You just got to feed
Yeah,
times
feed
two
mine.
marker.
Feed times 2. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then.
Which I'm gonna tell you, I think it's risky. I have a bad feeling about it, but you try it. Try it. It's we've never played this before. Who knows, right?
Yeah. Well, so okay, so let me undo that. Um, I'm wondering. So he has boat. Let me look at the boat again.
I mean, you have two boats and two carts, and you're
I have 2
basically
boats and
you're
2
going to be
cards.
besieged eventually, and then you have to decide whether you're going to go into the stronghold or not. Right?
Right. Well, I guess right now the way I envision it is that Domash is the one that can move, right? He's the unit, like, if Gavrilo is hunkering down in Pskov
Right.
and Vladislav is hanging out patrolling the north, Domash is gonna have to roam the south and supplement where needed.
Right.
So, I definitely want to make sure that I can move. I guess if I do a cart.
Sure. You just you got to figure out what's going to happen when Pskov gets inevitably attacked, right? Like you got to
Right.
figure out whether you want to like go into the stronghold with or stay out. In which
Or
case,
stay out.
you're going to have to do a field battle that you can immediately concede from, but you still have to go through one full
Still
round.
have to go
And
through
when
the
you
full round of it.
concede, you're retreating, and every hit you do counts as a half hit.
Right.
Right. So it's but when you concede and you retreat successfully without having all your units routed, you get to take everything with you. If you don't concede and you have to retreat, because well, when would that even happen?
So
No,
just so
yeah.
out of curiosity's sake, so if I redo this and then I do another one,
It's still times two.
it's still times
Still
2.
times two. Now you just have a giant force there, right?
Right.
No, that I mean, if you do the times two, then going all in is the obvious choice.
It's probably
right?
the way to go. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then you're just hoping that Gravirlo's Provender keeps you guys alive for forever. Or I just
Right.
hang out, right? Outside
Right.
and just wait for you to come out while I'm doing sieging and like ravaging the neighborhood. That's kind of what I think is maybe going to happen because going in on 2 people in there is going to be brutal.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. Okay, I was
Well,
just curious if it would go.
so the max number of siege engines I can have I think is 4, right?
Okay. I was just curious, like, if it went like, if I turn the dial on the number of people that I have, do I get to feed times 3, feed times 4? It's like, so okay, we'll undo for that. I think I'll do the cart, and I guess is there any?
I mean, you could muster a capability, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you
and
have
pick.
a lot, right? Like there's
Yeah, I
a
was gonna say, and Domash doesn't have anything. That's a good point. So
right. So
okay, so
you
if we
could give
go,
him. You could. So Domash has what does he have? He has 2 men-at-arms, 1 sergeant, 1 light cavalry, and 1 militia. So the question is, what would be like a good card for him? Um, this lord's militia and light horse have archery, and that's only 2 units, right? So Luzhniki is that. Men-at-arms have archery. You do have 2 men-at-arms. Like you could give them crossbowmen,
right?
which is pretty freaking strong. If I
I
actually
was
try
gonna
to
say that
attack into
seems
you,
pretty.
yeah.
That's where I'm leaning so far because everything else
You
that I'm
could give them. Oh,
seeing.
here's another thing you can do. There's a thing called Stone Kremlin. This lord, for his full command, may mark his fort, city, or Novgorod walls +1. Right.
Right. Okay. So if I was having him hang out and basically be defensive at Pskov, the Stone Kremlin would make sense because it would give the wall bonus.
Yeah.
Right.
Which you right now because if I attack with Herman, that wall has a negative, right, a -1 because of my
Right.
Whatever it's called, my trebuchets.
Right.
Right.
I guess let's go ahead.
Which I kind of feel like I should have given. I should have given that to Rudolph as well, but oh well.
Right. It's. Do we want to go on the walls or do we want
That's
the men-at-arms to have more archery to work with?
I mean, that's the question you have to ask yourself, right? Like whether you want to. Again, like I'm not even sure that I want to storm that place.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go
there.
with crossbowmen for now. I'm gonna run with that because I think right now with Gavrilo, kind of like threat of activation here, like just keeping Gavrilo here with the garrison with everything else and the Luzhniki pretty well set.
Yeah.
So
then you
if we
click
do
that
so
should have been your
Gavrilo.
full. Yeah, now you do.
Yes, that's full for Damash. Okay, so
So
the
Gavrilo has
triangle
three lordship, right?
3 lordship to work with. So for Gavrilo, there's on the lower one there's the men-at-arms, or that's a militia. There's a militia
light
and then
cavalry and militia, right?
light cavalry and militia.
Is that what that's called? Okay. Light horse, right? Light cavalry, yeah.
Okay. So, and I can't load up on capability because he's already taken.
I mean, you can, but then you'd have to let go of one of them. The question is whether you want the with knights command +1 if you're going to be defending the fort. Anyway.
If I'm going to be defending the fort,
but
that may be I could do capability here and do the Stone Kremlin.
You could
and discard the.
It's probably gonna. I've never done that. It's probably gonna ask you if you do that. My assumption is that it's gonna either before or after ask you which of the 2 you're gonna discard.
Yeah. Right. So when I do this, it brings up the
I mean,
selection.
you could also give him crossbowmen, right? I think you have 2 of those cards.
Well, one of them's in my hand,
which seems wild, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So the one's in my hand, so I can't give that to him, right? The one crossbowman is that Pelgawi that I drew that I.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so they're not always the same top and bottom because right now your crossbowman has a hold card of adding 4 Provender.
Right. Let's do the Stone Kremlin, and then it says, okay, remove a capability from Gavrilo, so I will remove the Drushina, and then I have 2 actions from there. If we do another cart. Like cavalry in a siege situation, like if I'm just hunkering down, I don't know that buys.
I mean, they do half it. They're because they're light. They are always going to do half a hit, right?
Right. Okay.
But they also are going to have they have. Keep in mind your militia and light horse have archery, so each of them are going to do half a hit in the archery phase, which comes before the mounted and before the melee.
Okay.
That said, is mounted even a thing in storming? I don't even remember. I think it is, but they don't have double hits.
Right. So I mean, if I do that, that immediately puts us into the times 2.
Immediately puts you in the times 2 thing, right? So again, if you do that, I would go all in. But also at that point, maybe I just hang out outside.
and starve it out.
That said, if I hang out outside and don't attack you, then no one's eating, right? Like I have
Yeah.
to put you into a situation where you either fought or moved, and you're not going to move, and to make you fight. Well, I mean, every time you do something like walls or whatever, I think you're going to get a fought move. I'm not sure. I'm not actually sure if that case you're going to have to feed your people.
It's a weird one.
Um,
I'm just gonna take a cart just to keep us moving because I know, like I said,
yeah. Well, I
we're
mean, I have to. Yeah, I said 5 to the family, but I haven't heard anyone complain about my absence yet. So
we'll be keeping an ear out for family members. We'll see how that goes. So if I do cart, I'll just do we'll just do cart. It'll be fine. Vladislav.
2 lordship.
Now I can go ahead and play the Pelgui to give him +2 lordship.
You can, but the question is, what are you doing with 4 lordship on that guy? I mean, you could. Yeah, I guess you can do a lot.
Two
Right?
capabilities. I was thinking.
It's true. You can get capabilities. No, you're right. You should probably no. You should play that on him now. Obviously, right? What else are you going to use lordship for? Right.
Right. So if we go lordship, and that's 4 actions, then we take 2 of those, and then capability for that. And now, actually, because I played the Pelgui with the crossbowman, I actually I can do the crossbowman with him now.
You can. You might well also consider giving him. Wait, who are we talking about right now? Giving him a cart.
Yeah, so that he can
actually move stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay, in muster with that. All right, so Papo.
That's it. Okay, so now we get the 2 special things, and yours is the Novgorod Veche, which allows you to spend a victory point to do certain things. You can also get victory points in there if you extend out when Alexander and the other dude become available, but they're not in this scenario, so it doesn't matter. But that's how you can increase victory points in there. It's just like, oh, we don't need you guys, right? And every time you don't need their guys, like you're independent from the lords of Novgorod, so cool, +1 victory point, right? So that's what you do with the Veche. I have this dude who you'll see here in the bottom left, William of Modena, the papal legate to Livonia.
Yes.
If he's in play, start pawn on card and return to your fuse. So I can move him.
He's in Dorpat right now, right?
So I can move him anywhere. He's in Dorpat right now. And so for this, I actually, every time I'm always like, okay, I'm just going to look this up. Papal legate. Okay, here we go. Papal legate. The 2 guns are purple, The legate is only in play while on the capability is in effect. Teutons put the legate pawn on the card whenever they receive that capability. During call to arms, they may place the pawn at any bishopric. The legate may march or sail with any Teutonic lord. Endangered. If the legate is ever with a Teutonic lord who avoids battle, withdraws, or retreats, or is in a locale with any Russian lords and no Teutonic lord, remove the pawn and discard the card. The legate, once on a map, can move himself, provide the Teutons a call to arms, levy, or add to a command rating. On campaign, often returning the pawn temporarily to the card. Right? But that doesn't really tell me what I'm supposed to do with this thing. Oh, he can basically give me like the ability to levy without having to roll, right? But all my lords are on the board, right? So if there was a lord disc in here and I want to levy that lord, then I could do that with the papal legate, right? Because the other thing is,
I mean, you wouldn't have to roll for the fealty. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay.
I don't really know that this dude is of any use in this scenario, but I'm also
saying in this scenario, not so much. Yeah.
Right. Totems effect. Select when I move himself around a call to arms, or added to a command rating. Yeah, but only if something starts from where he is, I think. Right. So he can add to a command rating. If he's basically, for that to work, I would have had to move him along with the people. Right, and probably I needed to do that. I could also just move him in here right now, but I don't think that's going to do anything. Right. So I'm just going to undo that. Right, because he had to be there at first for that to work. Well, whatever. Let's just keep him there. End call to arms. Right. So now you get the Black Sea trade, which is cool because that means you get a coin. So that's your card down here that says, each call to arms, add 1 coin to the Vichy unless Novgorod or Lovat are conquered, which they are not. So you're just going to get a second coin there.
Right? Okay. So do I guess I just click on the coin?
I think so. Oh no.
Yeah. Or no, I click on the Novgorod Vichy, and then that adds the coin automatically. Yeah, okay. There's the coin. Now I may take one action with the Vichy.
So that's the weird one, right? That's the one where you can now like decide to right.
Yeah, so the Russian player may either do nothing. So remove 1 VP conquered marker from the Vichy box to slide 1 Lord cylinder on the calendar by 2 boxes left.
Right. So you don't have any Lord cylinders, right?
Right, I don't have any Lord cylinders. So remove 1 VP marker from the box to automatically levy 1 ready Russian Lord without having to roll. So I can conscript a Russian Lord in. Do I have anybody to bring in?
You do not.
I was going to say, I don't think so.
Oh, I should have looked at the call to arms here. Indisposed. Arrives. Move the pawn. Use the legate to run the following 3 things. If at the seat of a ready lord, muscle that lord. If at the seat of lord on the calendar, slide by 1 ticks to the left. Or if a friendly locale lord, enable that lord to undertake an immediate extra muster using his full lordship. That's nuts.
Yeah. Right. So if I wanted extra muster, that seems to be the winner.
This is the papal legate, right? So for you, it's just wait to slide a lord center. You don't have anyone. Remove 1 to automatically levy a ready Russian lord. You don't have one. To enable 1 Russian lord and a friendly locale to undertake an immediate extra muster using his lordship. Yeah, that would be the only thing you use it for, but you lose a victory point, right?
Right, and I don't see like. I think I was having a little difficulty trying to figure out how to really use the lordship at this point anyway.
I should have, when I marched Herman, I should have marched the papal legate along with him, right? Which I assume I had the opportunity to do if I had just read the rules correctly. But that's fine. I didn't do it, so it's too late. Because I could have mustered with full strength of Herman, but I don't even know what I would have done. 2 more boats?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Right. It's like we were kind of at a point where there hadn't been enough attrition to really warrant like, okay, I need to muster up a whole bunch of forces. Right. So I think I'm just going to end call to arms. I don't think I'm going to run anything.
Okay. Interesting. This is a thing that you can do and I can do right now. So you don't have a marshal like I do, right? So you don't have like a Herman who can just like pull people with him.
Right.
Because your marshals aren't there yet. You don't even have the replacement marshal, right? Like Herman's not even my real marshal. My marshal is Andreas, but if Andreas isn't there, he serves as the marshal. But none of your 3 are even the replacement marshal. But what you can do is if you want to move units together for the entirety of the campaign, so you can't pull them apart, then you can make someone a lieutenant, right? And in doing so, I'm going to show you this. You can stack them, right? I'm going to undo this again, right? But basically, I just made one person the lieutenant of the other person, right?
Okay.
So that they could move together.
Right, they move as one stack.
They move as one stack, but then they're stacked together for the rest. Now, what I don't know what that means is if I could actually stack them for the sake of storming. Because for storming, that seems very powerful, because then they would only take 1 spot, right?
Right.
So let's see, Yaroslav and Rudolph. Yeah, man, that would be pretty baller. That said, any unit has a max of 6 hits on any phase. I think there's some rule about that I think they changed. I think that was one of the major rule changes between the first and the second edition. Let me see, 6. Nope, that's not it. Going all the way to the top and then searching for the numeral 6. Because I think, no, somewhere there was a rule that melee, I think it was melee phases can only have up to 6 hits or something like that. But yeah, so I'm not gonna do it because I think they're on a march with Herman or be independent, right? If I want them to. So weirdly enough, right now. Oh wait, unmark. No, I don't want to do that. Undo. Is that designate lieutenants and build a plan? Oh, I have to also build a plan. Okay. So this is the part where you build a plan as well, right? So now Now you'll notice that, so for example here, right, I have 1, 2, 3, I have 6 commands because we're still in the summer. And now I don't have, I'm going to zoom in here a bit so we can actually see what's going on. Oh, that's too much. So I don't have Andreas, and I don't have Heinrich, and I have Hermann, Knudnabel, Rudolf, and Yaroslav. And I think I have
or
three,
pass.
yeah, or pass. I have 3 cards for each, right? So I think the second I click in 3 cards, that's it, right? And then I can, of course, undo that again, right? And it is in this order from left to right, right? So you can do Knudnabel, Hermann, Rudolf, Yaroslav, Knudnabel, Hermann, right? I could just do that and lock it in.
Right.
And I think I have a suggestion to make. I think this is the exact good point for us to call it quits for today.
Yeah.
Because what we should do now, I think, because I mean, what I'm for sure going to do with this is I'm going to archive, like this is going up, obviously we're streaming this live on Twitch right now, but I'm going to for sure highlight it so that I can archive it. So this is like part 1. And then, because now what we can do is you and I independently build a plan.
Yes.
That we're not
so that
streaming.
We don't know. Right, we're not streaming. And it's pure. It's actually hidden information about what turns we're.
So then the next turn is just like you couldn't watch the stream, right? Like you couldn't look at the stream because I wouldn't want you to see. I'd have to scroll down here every now and then. You'd always see my plan, right? So you'd have to basically be looking at your board to know what's going on. And when I say look here, I couldn't say look here. I'd say look to Reval, right, or something like that. I have to like point to the place to you so that you'd know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Which I guess is an advantage of Tabletop Simulator, right? That I can like hit tab and be like, look here, arrow pointing.
Right. Actually gesture to it.
Yeah, actually gesture to it, because there's no gesture in Rally the Troops. There is a gesture in Vassal. I think that's another reason why they just, there are a couple of things. I'm very head over heels for Rally the Troops, because otherwise I think these games would not get played by me. Like, it's just too much. It's just too big of an ask.
I think the rules adjudication makes up for so much of the rougher edges of the UI. And the thing is that the UI improvements are happening, like, and the developers mentioned they're trying to bring them back into the other games too. So it wouldn't surprise me if at some point they get a gesture, like if you hold control to like show your mouse, or something like that.
Yeah, I think something like that would be super strong. But also, again, just with the stuff it is right now, this is going to make it so I can play this game on in a physical version, right? Yes. Because then I'm like, oh no, I know where this is. I've seen the rule. I know how to not do it because I've done it wrong before. And the only reason I did it wrong and knew it was wrong is because it wouldn't let me do it.
Right. And I think this is how I learned this as well, right? Because I can read through the rules of a game and I can I could try to piece together, but to me, it really helps to see it in motion. Like even watching a video or something like that, it's like I get it, but I learn much better by getting in and playing.
I mean, there are different types. Yeah, there are definitely different types of learners for that kind of thing, and this just hits the sweet spot for me.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Like I did watch the full Jean-Michel Grosjeu, like that 3-part thing, which is just that dude's just like. I can't do it right, and I don't want to like try to like insult French people, right? But it's like the accent is amazing, and for a while, not anymore, unfortunately, I'll be honest, but for a while, when I was playing it, I would like hear him talk the whole time,
right? And, like he would be voicing over your play, like
he's like
because he has such a distinctive voice,
voice, right? And it's like and it's like very visual, like it's a lot of like motion graphics and little like here's what this does and now this is coming in and like it's a lot. Making those videos must be so much work, right?
I think the videos like and I mean for people that are watching this, like if like definitely would recommend like if you want a deeper dive on the mechanics, like each of the mechanics, and then also some commentary about like where they're going or how they interact with everything else. Like he is exhaustive, right?
Oh, yeah,
like, and that's
he makes sure he goes through the entire quick start, right? So does he even? Yeah, I think he goes through the entire quick start scenario where he's like, or like there is a setup that he's made for himself that he goes through the whole thing. So he goes through a full campaign and a full levy and another campaign, and goes through some of the easier. So you notice like some of the turns are easier than others, right? You're like, okay, I'm going to move, eat, done, right? And you're like, oh, okay, right. And so he goes through some of them really fast once he's done them all, only to get to like a couple of corner cases at the end, right? And then he has a third video where he just like, okay, here are all the Arts of War cards. Here's an analysis of them. And then the second half of that third video is just, okay, this is the 30-minute summary of everything that I just talked about for like 2.5 hours.
Right.
And that summary is what I told Joe Klein he should look at, right? Because he was like, he's going to read the rules and he doesn't like watching videos. And I was like, yeah, don't watch the whole thing. Like if you understand, if you've gotten to the rules and you get it, the summary is still really strong, right? Because it just like reinforces it one more time, like also visually. But there's a lot going on. But again, for people who are like, maybe, I don't even know, do we still have like 4 or 5 people watching this right now? For anyone who's watching or watches it later, because we are going to archive this, do not like, it's not for the faint of heart, but it's manageable, it's learnable. You're going to mess up a lot, and it's going to be goofy to some extent when you mess up, because it's going to be like, oh, my dude's done. I forgot to eat. Disband. Right? And you'd be like, damn it. Right? But it's like kind of funny. Like it's one of those things where it makes that like individual little loss. Sometimes it stings a bit, but it's also like when it was also in my favor, right? When I made Knut and Abel disband for Brian, I was like, oh man, this is so mean. But it was also hilarious that they'd done nothing, right? So that part is good. And the most important part I'll bring up again, I said it before, is you're kind of investing in a whole series, right?
Right.
And this one is not light. The one that comes after this, Almoravid, supposedly is way more to take in than Nevsky. But then the third one, Inferno, which is about, I'll get to Jason in a second. The third one, which is Inferno, is about the Guelphs versus the Ghibellines, which is the whole like northern Italy, Florence versus Siena, right? Like that kind of battle.
Right. 13th century Tuscan warfare.
Right, which I've been to Siena, right? It's the place with all these high towers where the lords lived in, right? And so I was like, oh man, this looks really interesting. That one supposedly is on the lighter end, and now they're bringing out another one called Henry. The other one that's coming out is Plantagenet, which is about the Cousins War, or the War of the Roses. But then they're also bringing out one called Henry that is in a much smaller map. So they'll always do that, right? In Coin, the second game in the series is Cuba Libre.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Just please don't bum me out here. That was Siri. Siri felt engaged to talk, to consider that I was addressing them.
Siri is jazzed about historical war games.
Right.
Siri is there.
So the fifth game in the series is much easier, and the second game in the Coin series, Cuba Libre, that's the one that people say, oh yeah, start with Cuba Libre. It's a smaller map. It's still a lot to take in, but it's a much smaller map. And I just had it on the table 2 weeks ago to play at work, and it's one of the smallest footprint complex games. Like the ratio of footprint of that game to weight of the game is the wildest I've seen. It takes up almost no space, and then it takes up all the space in your head. So I think this game is a little bit like that, and there will be games in this series that are going to be a lot easier to play than this one. Jay, wait a second. Let me just reply. There's one comment from Jason Henke. Thank you for a first time chatter. I own it, and I haven't been able to play it yet, but I really enjoy seeing you guys play. Thanks for streaming it. You're welcome. And we're going to stream, hopefully sooner rather than later, we're going to stream the second half of this, right? Where we've now gone through a full campaign in Levy, and we're going to go through the second campaign and then resolve this whole Pskov thing, right? Because clearly that's going to happen in some way, shape, or form.
That's where it's coming to a head. Yep.
But
Thank you for watching.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jason. That's pretty. I mean, I'm glad that someone's on this with us. That said, it's we would have done this one way or the other. I just suggested the other day to Ozzy that we should stream it while we're doing it, so that it's archived in case someone wants to look at this later. Be like, hey, by the way, you want to play Nevsky with us? Just watch this 2 hour and 48-minute video.
Well, like you said, I mean, you were wanting for anybody that asks you, and that because it's like, so that you only have to do this once, right? Like you can point them to this,
I
as a
mean, there are
reference. And,
better.
like, hopefully,
Here's the thing. I would always point people to Jean-Michel Grosjean, right?
well, sure,
Because that's
sure,
like so much better. And then there's also one where um, Volko Ruhnke, the designer, is
yes,
guiding Lord of the Board and Fred Serval through a game, right? Where
right.
you can
I
clearly
did
see
see
that
that.
Fred's played it before, and Sam, Lord of the Board, has not. um, but that also, there's like hilarity ensues in them playing it, right? So it's like I did this for John Company, and I did it for Nevsky again, and kind of did it for Cuba Libre, where I watch a lot of videos because I need to just see it over and over again. I need to see it reinforced, so that,
Yes,
and then it really helps if the people who are playing it are at least trying to entertain it, right? And so like when I play with Brian right now, he's like he wrote to me on Discord in the channel, which is public, but we're the only two people in the Nevsky channel. Um, he said something like that my narrative is actually making it way better for him, and that because he's now involved with the development of Rally the Troops, that he wants to maybe get some. I think it was joking more about, but he's like, it would be really good if there was some flavor text, right? Because I was like, when my man at arms blocked 5 shots, I was like, man, this what a superhero, right? Just threw himself in the way and it's like, I got this. And it's like you can kind of there's like a lot of miniature goofball role play that you can do with this game, I think,
yes, yeah,
which is a thing that I learned through playing Twilight Imperium and all those other games, right? Where it was just like these are big commitments that you can only
right.
really do if it's going to be an entertainment. Like it can't be chess, right? Like I can't play this like chess. I'm sure that some people are infinitely better and always will be infinitely better at something like Nevsky than I ever will, but I don't care. I guess.
There's playing
Right?
it for competition, but then just playing it to appreciate the systems and the outcomes that can come from
Yeah.
it as like individual player stories, right? Like I think sometimes we think about like, okay, like Grenade Rolls Down a Hill, Far Cry 2 style as like, okay,
Yeah.
digital games have their own player stories, but board games have those too. And
Oh yeah.
sometimes they live more in your mind's eye because
Yeah.
you have to imagine more of what's going on in between all the text and everything else. There's
I
more of
mean,
that. You have to bring more of yourself
I
to it.
feel I wouldn't say it's better, but it's for me. I probably my mind's eye of this game is probably different from mine than from yours, right? As a person who lived in Germany for 29 years,
Sure.
right? Where I'm
Yeah,
like,
you're coming at it with a
right,
different context, different
to me,
historical.
it's like at first when I saw the map, I was like, who cares, right? And then I saw the
Right.
inset, and I was like, oh wait, it's Estonia.
Right.
And then I looked this demarcation line between Russia and Estonia, the one that is in this map right now, is
Yes.
the same today.
Right.
It hasn't shifted. It's the
Right.
same boundary, right?
You've been to these places, at least some
I
of
have
them,
not
right?
been.
Like,
I've not been to Estonia, and I've not been to Russia. So, but I've been to.
okay.
I've been to like Poland, and like I've lived in Berlin. Like I have like a mental model, a little bit of what it looks like and feels like. Not obviously not living in the Middle Ages, right, or in this kind of day and
Right.
age. Like this always blows my mind, right? This blows my mind in a way that, like, having studied architecture and civil engineering, I still marvel even at like modern day structures, but even more so like things they built hundreds of years ago, which of course it's problematic because it was obviously built on the lives of slaves.
Slaves. Yes.
But you look at this and you're like, what an effort, right?
Yes.
What a Herculean effort to do any of this, and for what, right? Like for what? This again, the border hasn't moved, right?
Yes.
I recently watched All Is Quiet on the Western Front because I'm trying to get through the Oscar nominees because I'm a sucker for that. I like awards shows.
Okay.
And the movie's visually stunning. I wouldn't it's not 4 out of 5. 3.5 to 4 out of 5 is what I would say to it. But the point is, I didn't know this until the end. Like at the end, it gives you like blah blah blah. At the end of the war, people still got shot because they capitulated at 11 a.m. and then some crazy German generals still marched in at 9 a.m. to like
Yes.
have their last hurrah and like basically slaughtered their entire platoon. But the craziest thing that I learned that I did not know about the First World War is that front moved a few hundred feet back and forth over the course of the 4 years. So
Yes.
they burnt 3.5 million people to do nothing, right? And that's the thing that when I play these historical games, right, for what it's worth, and I haven't watched it, so the thing I'll recommend to everyone is Fred had a show today at noon Pacific. Probably is going to go up on, maybe it's already up on his YouTube channel, on the Homo Ludens channel, that was with like all the people about like what does it mean to depict colonization in board games, right? And it was with Cole Worley and Mary Flanagan, who writes a ton of books on this stuff, right?
Yeah.
No, he got Mary Flanagan in. He's also had like Alex Galloway on his show from NYU, right, to talk about specific historical war games. So yeah, he has a good reach. He's doing a great job, I think. But you know, every now and then when I try to look at this, I'm like, I know what Cole. I've never met the dude, right? But I've listened to so many things of his and so many philosophical arguments. And his argument, as you know, because we've talked about this before, is to just have this as a dynamic memory. This is not how any of this played out in reality, but like it's giving me like the level of like weight of history style appreciation this kind of stuff is giving me is enormous. It's doing good things for me. A, now I understand. B, I better understand why things are the way they are, and I'm less anxious about them and feel more. I don't want to say optimistic, but like I think the world has always been like this, and seeing it depicted in an interactive context that is also kind of fun to, not kind of, is fun to play, right? It has like
There's a little bit of
making.
There's a little bit of white privilege in getting nervous about Trump or different things nowadays and thinking like, oh my God, like it's been peaceful for forever and now we're in trouble. And it's like, well, no, like if you look historically, like there's been like, this is not the first time that some of these different forces have come into play, that they've been in conflict.
It's also not the first time that these kinds of forces have been as open about their intentions as Trump is, for example, right? Like we was always like, well, previously at least it wasn't spoken out loud. Go far enough in the past, right? And it was very clearly spoken out, right? Like very clearly and very disgustingly. So
so having the history behind it is useful. Like it's informative, and I think this is where games, you know, and Jason also added, like, I have friends since high school who have had blood feuds since Diplomacy back in high school. The board war stories are why games rock for me.
Yeah.
And I think like Diplomacy, like Diplomacy is like divorce mode with my like with my wife if we ever played or anything like that. Like there's definitely like those stories carry with you. But I think the thing with games like this, and I mean you can even look at it with like more modern takes on this, like Imbagos for like news games. Like I think that the idea of playing through these things gives you a way of materially interacting with these systems or interacting with these contexts that can sometimes, for some people, be a little too coldly abstract if you're just reading it or if you're just watching it. So I think that's, you know, that sometimes it's good to have the rigor in the argument of, okay, how are we presenting this?
Right.
Like how, like, do we want, like, do we whitewash this? Do we present it, you know, in all of its in all of its, you know, kind of ugly, factual grounding? And then how do we engage with that, right? And we talked about that with like even like Modern Warfare 2 when we were streaming it, right? That it's like, okay, there's value in engaging with that. And presenting that and engaging with it, pulling your conclusions from that.
You kind of can't.
That I think
you kind of can't not do.
You kind of can't not do it.
You can't avoid it if you're engaging with it from a any form of intellectual, academic, artistic standpoint. I think.
Yeah.
Like you can't pretending it didn't exist or doesn't exist is not helping. I think. Right. That's
right.
Like, is definitely not helping.
I think that's the wrong place to fight the battle. Right. Like there's no value in having the tug of war over whether it's that. It's. I think it's. I mean, I think we're in alignment on that, right? Yeah. I think we come down in the same place. So but thank you.
The last thing I'll tell you before we disband is, you too should probably look at what lieutenants would do for you, right? If you stack those guys, like what would happen? Because I don't know, honestly. It may be that they just move together, and then when you get to the part where they have to storm or defend, they still have to split. Is my guess. but I'm
I
not.
was thinking about the possibility of Domash and Gavrilo, like, yeah,
I don't
lieutenant.
know because I haven't seen that yet, and I'm just gonna like do some looking up stuff before I decide on that. So I think the last thing we should do, even though this is probably like the most boring part of the recording, right? Is like I don't know. We can, you know what? Let's do that offline. We'll figure out when we want to do when we want to pick this up again.
We can figure out, and this may be something. I mean, I don't know, like, so I mean, for people that are watching that somehow dropped in on this and hadn't seen before, like, you stream every Friday.
I do.
Afternoon. You stream, and I'm doing a Sheeran Let's Play every Wednesday right now at around the same time.
Yeah, I do it
So
Friday mornings. Well, afternoon, right? But it's like nine. It's
yeah,
nine,
depending on your.
it's 9 a.m.
It's like 9 o'clock.
It's like 9 a.m. to
9 o'clock
noon Pacific. 9 a.m. to noon
Yeah.
Pacific. So we might just
Right.
pick it up on. I don't know.
We
if
could just pick it up on
just
Friday.
Pick it up on Friday.
Potentially.
Or even probably. I'm looking. I'll look at my calendar. My voice isn't working anymore. I'll look at my calendar later on, and we'll figure it out because I think we're gonna get through the second half of this second turn pretty quickly, like because we've built up big to this, and then we're gonna have. I don't think it's gonna take as long as the first part. Like this
We
part,
have so much to unpack up front. But even when we were going through the final turns of the campaign phase, like I felt like, I mean, some of that was because we were sort of holding in place because we're like getting ready for the next part, but also just going like understanding what the different options were without having to like enumerate them and everything else each time. Like I think we had everything unpacked up front. I feel confident that we can pick this up and not be looking at like 2 hours.
Right.
You know, I think we can go somewhere if we wanted to pick this up on Friday.
Yeah, I think so too. Also, we're 1-1, so it's nicely neck and neck. No one's really in danger of being disbanded, although I'm much closer to it, and the dude who of yours is close to it is super far away.
Yeah.
So my big build up now for the planning phase is how much do I want to involve Knut and Abel, and how much do I think I need to involve Herman, right?
Right. And I think that's that the flip side of that is here as well, is like now that I have like I've built up Vladislav a little bit, do I want to really push? Do I feel like holding out at Skov frees me the ability to roam a little bit more of Vladislav, and then or have actions to be able to say, okay, well, you're going to move a little bit more with Knut and Abel, or Abel, you know, like it's everything that we did so far was so focused on that southern part.
Right.
I do think the second turn opens up the possibility of a little more action up north.
I think so too, because and then these could potentially. I don't know how much meeting is going to happen here, right? I think this is going to be a big deal, and then whether I manage to like still ravage around here and you around here to like get in the race to the victory points.
Right.
In my experience up to now, when I played it, it usually ended, or it wasn't just ravage and conquers; it was mostly routes, right? Because only in this scenario, I have to emphasize this. Only in this scenario, if you get an opposing lord to disband, that's a victory point. That's not normally a victory point. It's just for the Pleskau or Pskov for the Pskov scenario, right? That's normally not the. And I think it's just so that you don't like rush in and like get all your dudes killed, right?
Right.
Because you can kind of do that. Like you can do that in the full length or even in the half length campaign.
Yes.
Then they just go back up to the calendar, right? And again, like if for example, Yaroslav disbands here, like say he slides back here, we're in turn 2, he disbands, his cylinder would come off the board and go here, right? In which case, once the game gets to that point and we're in the levy phase of round 4, you can levy him again, right? So, and then he'll have his same like whatever 2 loyalty. So his marker here will go then to the 6th spot, right? And so that's how you constantly get through it. And if you look at I think it's in the, you know what, for this I actually have to, let's go here and go to the background book, right? So in the background book, in the middle, here, look, here's how it really happened, right? So this is the calendar, and this is how it shook out as far as they know from like whatever texts they have, right?
This is the historical record. This is sort of like their game design Bible, so to speak, that they were working from.
This is what they're trying.
In terms of how they wanted to simulate.
This is what they're trying to go for, right? And you can see that like Battle on the Neva, like, but we in our version, right? The Battle of Izborsk happened here in 1, not in 2,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then here, fall of Pskov, September. Russian remnants flee up Velikaya River to Novgorod. Teutons besiege Pskov, ravage locale, obtain city surrender, blah 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 blah, etc. etc. Right?
Right.
So, yeah, it's I don't know. I never in a million years would I have at some point been like, yeah, dude, totally. Like, some point in my life, I'm gonna be playing these stupidly complicated and long war games because I like the history. Right? Like, I'm not playing video games at all. Like, almost not at all, right? Because I'm just like so immersed in this other stuff.
Right, you're playing Spelunky and Marvel Snap on Fridays, and then going immediately back to like.
I just figured
Nevsky
exactly. I figured there's one thing I thought was pretty fun because you just brought up news games. One of the co-authors with Ian on news games is the person who convinced me finally to stick with Marvel Snap.
Oh, okay.
He's one of my. He's a very close friend of mine, and he co-authored news games with.
Yeah, there were 3 authors on news games, right? I think Simon.
Simon
And
Simon was
Ian
Simon was. Oh, and oh god, what's the name of the third person?
I'm blanking on the third one.
Yeah, but
sorry, third person that wrote news games.
Simon was Simon. Yeah, Simon and I've been friends for 12 years now. 12 and a half actually. Yeah, but he was a PhD student at the time with Ian when he was writing
Bobby Schweizer. Sorry, Bobby.
So yeah, he was a big. He's like, oh god, I think he's like level 70 or something, and like sending me screenshots of like everything's destroyed on Marvel Snap, which I'm like, I don't even know what I'm seeing here, right? Like he's like collector level 17 or 18. I don't even like some nuts. I'm collector level 460 now. I'm very close to having all, what do you call them, stage 1 and 2. Is that what those cards are that are pre-boxes?
Yeah,
something like that. So I'm close to that.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm still, but and guess what? Last night in bed, I bought the season pass.
You finally did.
I was laying there. I was like, come on, like I really like this game a lot. I've paid $0 up to now, right? And I'm just like, yeah, come on, this is okay. And then I got the season pass, and I don't really know that I think that was as smart as it was for Modern Warfare. But did I already tell you the last thing? Yeah, I promise I'm gonna stop boring people to tears if they're still watching this, because I'm not gonna edit this video.
Thank you for watching, everybody.
I'm not gonna edit this video. Even the YouTube version of this is going up later. I'm not editing this. I bought the season pass for the second Modern Warfare for the season 2, and I started playing ranked. Did I tell you this yet?
I think you mentioned it on stream that you were having fun in Bronze 1 for ranked.
It's so punishing. Like it's like rats on a sinking ship. Right? It's like I cannot for the life of me get out of Bronze 1. And I'm like, well, I'm just not that good at this game, right? Like, it doesn't matter that I've played it for 120 hours. It's like I'm not anywhere close to able to get out of there. And to be clear, I'm still coming in first and second in my team, right? And I'm like, please team me up with people where I will be third and fourth, but at least I win the game, right?
Right.
And so that's happened a few times now, but I think I'm maybe done.
Wow.
I didn't think it was going to happen yet. But I don't like, we played a little bit of Warzone, a little bit of DMZ. I like those modes quite a bit, but not enough to like want that to be my nightcap.
Yeah.
And then having ranked be my nightcap is like taking a hammer and smacking it over my head so that I sleep better, right? It's like it's like
it's a little stressful. A little stressful.
It's not. It's just frustrating because it's like.
Yeah.
At first, I thought they were like, they made a big deal out of how they're not going to have placement matches. I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. And then I was like, oh, wait. That means that everyone who comes into it, even if they're
everybody's smurfing.
They're like say a good player is like, oh, I think I'm going to play ranked, right? And then suddenly you're playing against a bunch of like Bronze 1 players who should not have no business being in Bronze 1, right?
Right.
And they're climbing over your head, and maybe I should be in silver. Maybe I should be in gold, but maybe I should be in silver. I can't get to silver. Because every time a new gold or silver or gold or platinum player comes in, I'm fighting that person in bronze 1, right?
Right.
And so maybe I just need to let it go for a month or two. And then maybe bronze 1 will actually be bronze 1. But right now,
it'll finally have sorted itself out. Yeah.
Right now, bronze 1 does not feel, to me at least, I'm like, I don't think I'm that bad at this game.
I think for Modern Warfare, to put my cap on it, I think they announced that Plunder, the mode that I used to play with my daughter all the time in Warzone 1, is coming back with Season 3.
Okay.
That's probably when I will dive back in, but I'm nowhere. I mean, if you're Bronze 1, I'm like what are lesser qualified medals?
there is nothing under it.
They may invent one for me.
What I might do in that case is I might still play straight up multiplayer, right? Just to play the game for fun and get my, because the thing is, and this is really smart. I mean, again, they know how to market shit, right? They basically give you 1,900 coins for unlocking everything in the season pass, but then the next season pass costs 2,400 coins.
Yeah.
So
they get you close. It's still close.
But like you can just keep on playing the season pass for $5, and I think that's smart because that's such a low bear. Like I paid $30 for the first season pass, right?
Right.
And now I played $5.
And the idea they want you to feel like you almost can pay for one season pass into the next.
I didn't know that.
And on some of the games.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say in some of the games like Fortnite and other ones will do it that way, but this one, but yeah, this is how it sometimes does. If it won't let you pay all the way, it'll get you just close enough where you're like, oh man, it's like $5.
I didn't know that the season pass was a thing you could buy from Call of Duty points. I almost used those for freaking Messi, right? I almost paid $5 to just get the Messi skin. Boy, oh boy, would I have been bummed out. I've been like, oh come on. Right, so when I saw 19,
you would have been bummed, but as Messi, like I mean,
I don't need the skin. I think having the season.
What's Messi's bummed face?
I think the season pass is way cooler because I actually like the blueprints. Like the blueprints are weapons that are better than anything I could build. Right.
Yeah, the blueprints are usually really cool, and it'll be curious to see because they just started the blueprints for Warzone 1 after they got really wild towards the end.
Yeah.
Because they kept accumulating and doing
the design
different variations.
space with all the fine tuning that you can do on each attachment once you unlock the full weapon is kind of nuts, and it really has an impact.
On Gunsmith. Yeah, and the Gunsmith is even more broken out than it was. Like it's very deep. It was pretty good even in Warzone 1, but it is super deep in Warzone 2 for sure. So,
I still like the game. It's just that I was very excited about ranked, and I'm a lot less excited about ranked. Because it'll
come
rough,
and go.
Right? It's just so
like you said. Eventually, once everybody else, all the Smurf accounts for the pro Call of Duty League players that are like, oh, I guess I have to grind out bronze.
Those dudes actually show up in the top. So there's a list of top 250 players in the world, and the people who are in the Call of Duty League have special. Like when you go over them, they actually have their screen.
They actually have a hub.
It's them. It's straight up them, right? And I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of cool because I've been watching it a little bit. By the way, I am level 47 in Snap, not collector level, level from 0. They have a level from 0.
The competitive level,
actual cubes, cubes earned level.
Yes,
I've made it. I've clawed and it's not the people on the maybe my friend Simon still tells me that it's a lot of bots and that they just snap all the time, and I'm like, there's some snapping going on where I'm like, I don't think you should snap here, right? I think I'm getting 8 cubes this game, right?
Yeah, there are definitely some curious selections where it's okay, you're snapping and I have all 3 things and there's only 1 round left. It's why are you doing this? Are you trying to? It's not like poker where you're gonna go all in and scare me off of this hand, right? It's we're gonna.
And the next thing that's gonna happen to me is because I have the season pass now, and last night I was just too tired. Is I have 2 things that I haven't done yet, which is destroy 10 cards, discard 10 cards, and now I have Modoc, right? So now I have the pieces that you need to have a discard destruction deck,
Yeah.
I don't know how to pilot it, so I'm probably gonna like lose a lot of ranks for doing that. But it is fun to. I, the whole time I was playing the same deck with like
I don't
no
have
changes.
Modoc, but I don't have Modoc, but I have most of the pieces for discard and destroy, and that's what I've been playing a lot
Modoc
of,
is
and it's pretty good.
Modoc you get for the season pass, right?
Yeah, you get for the season pass, right? And
right.
you can immediately. I haven't bought it yet. I bought the season pass last time for Kavu or Kazar's cat, whatever his name is. Sorry, Kazar's cat.
Sabu.
Sabu.
I hate myself for knowing this. I'll be honest. I'm like, oh god, I know the Marvel universe. Help.
You you're becoming a comic book nerd by osmosis, right? Like it's just.
I mean, that was
like slowly, gradually bleeding.
That was always
into you,
mildly the case, but it can't ever really happen because I kind of don't like it. Like I just got Now or Never, the Ryan Laukat board game, and the only reason I got it is because someone on BGG traded me for Marvel Legendary. Like I had Marvel Legendary with one expansion, Dark City. I hadn't played it since 2012, and they were like, "Hey, can I have the copy? Here's a fully blinged out copy of Now or Never." I'm like, I'm not gonna play either of these games, but I'd rather have Now or Never. So I like, sure, right? So that's how little I care about Marvel. I guess Marvel United is a big deal right now. It's another like relatively light Marvel themed board game that people seem to love, and I'm like, I don't care.
I like Marvel Champions as a living card game, like Fantasy Flight. Like, it's very similar to the Lord of the Rings.
That one I played, so I have it.
Yeah.
I got it because I was like everyone loved it, and I played it, and it's easily soloable. And
yes,
I liked it all right, but I also only played it once, right? Like I played it once, and I'm gonna guess I probably gave it a 7 or an 8, because it is a good game. It's for sure a good game, and I think it probably like sings at 2 when you actually co-op it.
Yes,
but
I think the Lord of the Rings one is really good at representing different parts from the books. Right. Like it actually hits the tone of those really, really well. I think it sings victory.
I played that game
I think
too.
that. For Marvel, I think it's a little more. I don't know. Like Marvel, it's more about the characters. It's a little more. It's like, hey, it doesn't tie into the specific comic stories, from what I could tell. So I think there's a little less.
Which of course begs the question whether you've ever played War of the Ring.
I have a box of War of the Ring unopened. I want to play that game.
I've played it once, but it was an amazing experience. Like that game, I think is a 9 I think I gave it a 9 on BGG because I only give vintage. I can't give 9.3 or something. But I'm pretty sure if I play that game 2 or 3 more times, it would probably move to a 10. It was so good. Such an interesting, like that and Rebellion and Star Wars Rebellion, like these like big 2-player cat and mouse games.
Yeah.
Love it. I just wouldn't. The only way we could play that is at a convention or on Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah, we would have to do Tabletop Simulator. Like, I have War of the Ring. That's one of those where it's like, okay, am I gonna unbox all this and try a solitaire playthrough? Like that's like I don't know that that's a solitaire friendly one.
Those games don't work as solitaire games because you really need to have it. Like you need the hidden information.
Yeah, you need the hidden information.
Otherwise I think it falls apart, right? You need to be able to. It's way more important in Star Wars Rebellion. Because that's such a cat and mouse game, right? Like the way that game works is that every round the noose tightens, right? Where the options where you could be are smaller and smaller because cards get thrown away. In Lord of the Rings, there's a phase where the Fellowship disbands, and at that point, Frodo and Sam go invisible, right?
Right.
And then suddenly the Sauron player doesn't know where they are, and now they have to start playing Scotland Yard, sort of, right? And that adds a lot to the tension, but it's nowhere close to as important as it is in Star Wars Rebellion.
Yeah.
Right? But I highly recommend both of those games. Again, for like if you want like a Nevsky style full day experience, right?
The full deal.
Because here's the thing: I think if you actually play the full 16 round campaign of Nevsky, keep in mind though, right? Like all of these 8 rounds here only have 4 command cards, right? And the spring only has 5. So Those rounds.
You're still in it for the long haul, though. Like, it's still going to be an all-day affair.
It is going to be an all-day affair. I think that my estimate for the full 16 is probably 8 to 10 hours. Right?
Yeah,
That's
I
my
could
guess.
see that.
That's probably like an 8 to 10 hour game that you will never forget. For sure, you will never forget that.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's just the experience that it comes with. And if you can put yourself in the mindset that that's what that day is going to be, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Are you winning, son? Are you?
Whose turn is it? Both of our. The answer is both.
Yeah.
We are both.
Yeah, we have to break away to make our plans.
We are both in the phase of like figuring out who is going to command when on the next in this next campaign phase, which we will stream live potentially Friday. I just want more people to play these kinds of games because they are.
Well, hopefully people are entertained or at least intrigued by the stream. Thank you for having me on the stream.
Oh yeah, no, thanks for playing. I'm glad we got to figure this out on a Sunday afternoon for me. Yeah, a Sunday evening for you. Cool.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll definitely do a second part of this because I do want to see how this shakes out.
How this plays out. Yeah, absolutely.
By that point, I will be able to tell you how the other one with Brian played out. Because that guy, when I started up the Pleskow quick start scenario, he's like, "Oh, I thought we were playing the 16 rounds one." I was like, Brian, there's the undo is not super forgiving, and I think you could accidentally do a thing that like around like 18 hours of play, where you'd be like, "Well, now I lost the game," right? And I don't think you want that to be the first time you play it, right? And now we're playing the quick start scenario, and we're not as far as we are right now. We're still in the first campaign. We have not reached the levy phase yet, where of course he's the Teutons and he has all of them on unfriendly ground, so he's not levying anything, right? It's a very different game. It's a very different game, but he's also like, "Oh God, I'm so happy we didn't do the 16 rounds."
Yeah. I mean, like, if you want to set aside a month of async turns, like maybe
it's not even because of that. It's just that he's already like we've both fumbled so many times already, where it's like again, this is in a game like this, it's like if you think of it as a Splotter game, that's a feature. It's a feature of the game that the possibility space is so huge and largely bad. Right? Some people actually actively dislike that. They think that's #bad game design.
Right. They don't want to feel like a dummy.
It's like you shouldn't allow the player like 20 ways to hang themselves and one that's semi okay, right? And it's like, well,
it's a trade-off, and I think Nevsky, having that deep and that broad of a possibility space. I think if you can get your foot in the door, like that's what's going to pull you back, because there's a lot.
So Volko goes on record saying this pretty regularly, and says stuff like they didn't have the plan either. So one of his design maxims for historical war games is put you in a situation where it's unclear, right? Even though we have recorded history, right? But trying to put you into a situation where you're like, oh boy, right? Like, I don't know what the outcome of this is, right? Like, I don't know what this means exactly. And of course it's abstracted, so we know, a wall is 1 to 3. Like, they didn't know that either, right?
Right.
So he's trying to get at least closer to the uncertainty that was around. Is this gonna hold? Like, is this
the dread?
Right. Like all of that stuff. Right. It was just like, oh man, and then like sieging a place for like 6 to 12 months. Right.
But to earn that dread, you have to have teeth in your game design to actually punish when you fumble up front.
Right. And then the fumble, I don't know. I find the fumble to be a younger me who hadn't like studied this as much as I have now would probably have felt much more like that, like my time wasted. But I'm just like, I can't now it's just like, oh, this is like more guided role play than a straight up tabletop RPG. Right.
Like, or like, even if we take it to Spelunky, it's like, okay, that's a Spelunky run. Okay, I died.
This is a very long run, right? And
this is a very, very long run.
And in the past, I've always said like, oh, please don't make your game so that I die on a coin flip after 8 hours, right? That's always a thing that I find is like, but I don't feel like that's what's happening here,
No.
right? Like it's not like
There's a lot that's going on.
We're not playing 8 hours and then at best it's a coin flip at the end, right? Which is, to be honest, one of the reasons why I stopped playing Netrunner, because our Netrunner games were going very long, and then it ended on like a one run where you like, is it going to be an agenda or not? And it's like, okay, it was one, you win. If not, I would have won.
By the way, your Shores of Tripoli turn is up while we're talking about this.
Oh, I think my Shores of Tripoli turn has been up for a while.
You want to talk about another coin flip game?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, we could talk about that game all day, but like I think
that's another discussion.
That's a little bit too. That game has a little bit too much randomness in it, and whatever. I actually have. I think I mentioned this on the stream on Friday, but it just arrived. It's way too dark in here, but this just arrived 2 days ago. Votes for Women, which is from the same company,
same designer.
Games. It's not the same designer.
Yeah.
He's the designer on Shores of Tripoli is the developer on this. The designer on this is a woman who works in public service. Her name's Tori Brown, and she has a lot to say about randomness in games. And I don't know yet, right? I haven't played it. It looks, the components, amazing, so beautiful. So I'm excited to play that. And my wife is too, because she's like, "Oh, this sounds like a cool topic. It's like 60 to 90 minutes. There's some randomness in it, and the cards are multi-use, and so this is my way of like sneaking that in, right? I'm like hoping that she like is like, oh, this is actually pretty cool, and then the next step is I have that miniature Twilight Struggle game coming, the Horn of Africa or whatever it's called, and that's supposedly like a 60-minute version of Twilight. So I'm like, there's a strategy here, right? I want to see if she's.
It says heads 19th Amendment, tails women permanently disenfranchised.
Pretty much, right? That's what it is. That said, you can play that game in co-op mode. Like if you don't want, I mean, it still could be a bad outcome, but at least then it won't be like one person's like the dude who didn't want it to happen. Right. But in the interview that I recently listened to on Space Biff, so she was interviewed by multiple people, including Space Biff, and Dan Thoreau. And in that case, basically what she's saying is like she doesn't want to just be like a sweep for the women, right? And it should make sense that there is a stakeholder for whom this is just bad in a utility sense, even though we can all look at that and be like, oof, that's gross on so many levels, right?
That's how some people thought about it, though, that they were rules lawyering about the Constitution, and they would think, I don't know.
The designer basically says, look, we work in, like, I want everyone to understand, and again, like having Ix on, like, still be here is of course hilarious, is amazing for this, right? Like she just wants everyone to understand that all of this is work, right? Like you can complain all day long about how disgusting it is that people didn't want women to vote, and we have a million of those things these days, right? With like, I mean, I don't even want to get started, right? But like, you're not like just being like this is bad, right? Like it's not going to change it. Saying this is like, and we're all guilty of that. This is so bad. It's like, no, someone Ix has to do the work, right?
Yep.
Co-op mode, family votes through the head of the household. I don't think so. The game looks amazing. Like go to the Space Biff podcast and listen to the designer interview. It sounds really, really cool. I'm excited to get it to the table for sure.
Andy, I've got to go ahead. I got to wrap it. It's 8:00 where I'm at. And
no. This is what I do for a living, right? I could talk about this till tomorrow morning. I wouldn't run out of juice. Like I just can keep on going about this all the time.
There's a lot here, and I think that's it. It's valuable to interrogate it and to play it. And I think it's cool that we were able to get as far as we would. It'll be cool
we're gonna for sure play more of this, and hopefully the folks doing Rally the Troops keep on implementing this stuff.
Keep on trucking.
I wish I had the time to do it, but like, hey, we got one person. We got Brian Long to contribute to it. He's become a contributor, so maybe
Brian add gestures.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
He'll figure out a game. I mean, what they've done so far is great.
Well, he's trying. It's not a secret. He was specifically asked if he would want to work on the Red Flag Over Paris.
The Red Flag Over Paris, yes.
Which is Fred Serval's game, right? The guy who runs Homo Ludens, the YouTube channel. So it's
So,
all it's just
that'd be cool.
It's a pretty tight knit community. But
Yeah.
because of that, they're all very they're strongly motivated to make this stuff work. Okay, cool. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone who's still here, including X. Thanks for jumping in late. I'm gonna archive this, maybe not today, but sometime this week. I'll just hit archive on the Twitch stream and just flush it straight to the Eggplant YouTube channel with no edits whatsoever. Like, I'm not doing any editing on this.
Raw and uncut.
Yeah, maybe I'll give it a type. You know what? Maybe I'll make an effort to make the screen that you see when you see the video not look like shit, right? Like, maybe I'll do something so that it's like, oh yeah, they actually care now about their branding. Because previously I just would take a screen, like one of those splash screens from the title cards, right? It'd just be like this or something. I'd be like, okay, fine, because I didn't want to do any effort for it. But like for this one, maybe I'll figure something out, or not. I have way too much on my plate all the time. Okay, thanks a lot for playing. I'm gonna sign off, but first, let's see. Okay, thanks a lot. I'll be in touch, Ozzy. Okay.
Yep. Thanks, Andy. Take it easy.
Cheers. Okay. Wow, that was 3.5 hours. And it's dark. I'm sitting in the dark. That was fun. Thanks a lot for people who were live along for the ride. Again, I will put this up live later on. I will put this up on YouTube later so you can check it out. But no one in their right mind should watch this 3.5 hour video. If you want to play this game, you should watch Jean-Michel Grosjeur's YouTube series on how to play Nevsky. That is what I did to learn this game. And with that, hopefully we will see more of this game latest Friday or sooner, but probably not. But if we can get the second part in on Friday, then I'll probably snip that out of the rest of the Friday stream. And that's going to be from 9 a.m. to noon Pacific time on Friday. Until then, hope you are doing well and stay safe, happy, healthy, and sane. Cheers.